Gentlemen, behold! I have invented the dildo!
Dr. Weird, I don't think you invented it, and this didn't go so well the last time.
Quiet, Steve! I will use this dildo and its multiple settings to oppress all of the women!
Dun, 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 dun! So good.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're going to be going with this. It's really rather terrible as a thing. So, hello everyone in the chat. Once again, I am here with the Bunny, and we're going to be looking at feminism in academia again. Oh dear.
Yay!
Yes, maybe this will be one of those secret, robust feminist arguments that we've constantly been told that we really need to challenge ourselves with.
We have not found the Grail yet.
No, I don't think we ever will, but maybe today will be the one, because it might be. I don't know. My hopes are not very high.
You have to be optimistic. Apparently, the robust feminist argument is out there that can stand up to scrutiny. I listen and believe, Teal. I do, because people tell me it's so.
Oh, that is fine. At least my lagomorphic lab assistant is hopeful. I, on the other hand, am not. So, chat, I'm going to unveil the title for this paper for you. We're going to read it, and we're going to have some immediate reactions just to this, because it's going to go to all of the silly places, and because Bunny's here, we're talking about something inevitably a little bit lewd. The Dildo as a Transformative Political Tool, Feminist and Queer Perspectives by Arpita Das, and I would like to point out to you that this is a peer-reviewed paper. It was published back in 2014 in the Journal of Sexuality and Culture.
I wish I could see the chat right now. And I would like to assure all of Teal's fans after the last slightly lewd, and that's a fair cop, by the way, that I tend to do the lewd stuff. We all have strengths. But I'd like to assure your fans, Teal, that your remote-controlled shock collar for when I begin to giggle uncontrollably is firmly in place. So you can just hit the button, and it will shut me up immediately.
Excellent.
So, yes, it works on Wi-Fi. So.
Yes, that is perfect, because the cramming socks into your mouth was, well, we ran out of socks, so we don't ever know how effective that is. Okay, so, yes, this is a peer-reviewed feminist paper talking about how basically dildos are now the oppressive tool of the patriarchy that is here to oppress all of to women's in the current year, because that's obviously how this works. So,
yeah.
How would you describe this paper? Because I would describe this personally as reading someone's live journal blog, showing my fucking age there.
Exactly.
It's someone's live journal blog about how insecure they are about themselves.
This exactly. This reads to me like someone's blog post that they shoved a bunch of citations in and somehow got published. It's a blog post. This is the state of academia right now. Yay. And it's all over the place too. Like I find the author's perspective kind of random at times, actually, like just with, well, it's dildos. Should I feel bad about that? And there's a lot of feels over reals in this. People who have tuned in expecting actual like scientific data, no. There's none here.
Feminism in academia. Has anyone ever come to expect any sort of scientific rigor or academic rigor in feminism in academia? We all know it's feels before reals, but that's part of what makes it so goddamn fun.
It's true. So this is not a serious like fisking of a scientific paper going, well, the sample size is just there's no fucking sample size.
What of a paper? Sorry?
Yeah, this is not a serious fisk, where you take it line by line and like dissect it and
oh no, I misheard you. I was thinking much more along the lines of the title.
Exactly. No, because all of this boils down to this was my personal experience. Personal experience. listen to me and put me in a paper and pay me, and someday I will be cited by other people who are
And
equally.
rather disturbingly, they are and have been.
Yeah.
And yes, this paper really is the my lived experience, because that's
Hmm.
the feminist thing now. It's lived experience. That's what makes it real, and you must listen to it, and it's really important. And herpty derp derp herp derp.
I've developed like a feminist paper bingo card, and one of the things that's on here, I mean, we'll get to that in a minute, but it's like the feminist CV. Before you go into any kind of what resembles meat, but it's really more like faux meat tofu stuff. But it's, oh, and by the way, before I continue, I must tell you I am an intersexed, disabled, queer woman of color with history in the Jews or some other oppressed minority, except they never say Jews because um, but it's almost like a CV of oppression that's meant to legitimize what's happening here.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I laugh at, because realistically I don't really care who you are. I care about what you're writing.
As it
So
should be.
exactly. I do not care. It is what you are writing. You do not suddenly get more well, it's rhetorical power, right? And it's appealing to, well, I clearly know, and this is why men can't comment on women's reproduction even if in a scientific way, right?
Yep.
My lived
Absolutely.
experience. It's total bullshit. So funny.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna make a bingo card and I'm gonna post it.
Please
Yeah.
do, because it will be hilarious, and we can fill it in live on the air one day, and it'll be
Yeah.
it'll be great.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so I'm at a loss as to how we want to start reading this, because, well, we've got the abstract, but then we go into what is a blog post. So I'm in two minds as to who should read this, because should it be you or me who reads about our experiences of going shopping for dildos with our boyfriends and their girlfriends or something?
I I don't want to assume anything about you, Teal, because that will destroy the mystery. But I have to say, I probably, in all likelihood, have a little more experience with buying dildos. I don't know though, and I don't judge, but I'm just, I probably have more experience buying dildos than my contemporary women counterparts. So just
Okay,
putting that
so
out there.
would you then like to be the one to read us into the blog post?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Let's do
so
this.
shall I get the abstract out of the way, because that's kind of meh, and then you can launch into the thing, or would you just like to hit the ground running, as it were?
I will hit the ground running.
Off you go then.
So the abstract. Censorship in patriarchal cultures runs deep in pushing dialogues and discussions on sexuality and sexual desires underground. The forbidden nature of these conversations is tighter around women and girls. With the inadequacy of affirmative and safe spaces to talk about sexual desire and pleasure, accessibility and availability of sex toys, including dildos, becomes significantly difficult, more so for women and other marginalized communities. Discussions about the dildo are further mired in debates between and among feminist and queer ideologies. In this paper, I look at how the dildo could be viewed simultaneously as a tool of oppression as well as of liberation, and attempt to address the question, who does the dildo oppress and who does it liberate? I explore the multiple perspectives around the dildo within feminist thought and queer theory, with special attention to points of convergence and divergence between them. While some predominant feminist perspectives understand the dildo as a symbol of the phallocentric order, there are others which view it as a tool for transformative politics. Queer theory also views the dildo as a device that can alter and shift traditional hierarchical relationships and be liberating not only for women, but also for several marginalized identities, including people with disabilities and people living with HIV. Unwrapping some of the ways in which the dildo is perceived, understood, and experienced, I suggest that the dildo needs to be interpreted in complex and multi-layered ways. And I did that with a straight face. So
Well done. Well
I
done.
need
All I can imagine at the end of that is the dildo as an onion.
I don't know, people are on the fence about neurolinguistic programming and stuff, but the language, in this, and maybe it's just my pervy perspective, which I completely will own, but like tighter around women and girls, runs deep in pushing.
Hmm.
I'm like, I think you need to stop worrying about dildos and just maybe appreciate them for what they are a little more. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. Like, there's
This is the second paper where I looked at it and I think maybe Freud was actually onto something rather than being that fucking insane crackpot that we know him to be.
exactly. It's world changing seeing all the kind of language that's like sub rosa with other meanings. This is sexy language, and it's yeah. So I don't know. And to back up what I'm saying here, as you go through the paper, there's the author has a lot of conflicted feelings about wanting to enjoy dildos, but wondering what it means if she does. Oh my God. Like, is she a bad queer if she likes dildos? Is she a bad feminist if she likes dildos? This is what keeps her up at night. When really the dildo should be keeping her up at night. So
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
it is all of the feels in this. So
I have a few notes on the abstract, but if you want to go first, I'm sure you do as well.
well, I can just pop one in there. It's just a small one to tease it out a little bit. So in getting dildos and sex toys, it becomes significantly difficult for women and other marginalized communities. Has this author ever set foot in a sex shop where like 90% of the everything is aimed at women and where 90 something percent of the staff on the shop floor are women? If you're a guy trying to buy things in sex shops, you're going to get a lot more side eye than if you're a woman.
I have never seen a man working at a sex shop. It may be a Canadian thing, but
It's not.
I have never seen a man working there. And there tend to be two types of women working there: younger, pierced, tattooed, colored hair,
Mm-hmm.
or, and I'm stereotyping, but this is my lived experience, y'all, or older women who are still in reasonably good shape, but they have that kind of comforting, "It's okay, dear. Let me just show you how this works." Usually blonde, and glasses on a chain around their neck. And this has been this has been my experience. So it's
That actually goes with mine quite well. Actually, it's
yeah.
rather funny.
See,
In fact, there was a lovely little old lady that actually used to work in a sex shop near somewhere where I used to live several years ago, and I actually picked up a bag full of angelfish from her from the shop, and that's not actually a sex toy, like actual angelfish, because
I
I
was
was
gonna
just
say, is that a
I
euphemism?
no, it isn't. I was just having a chat with her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I've got like a fish tank and stuff, and I've got some fish which I can't have anymore because it's overstocked now. So would you like to take them?" So I went into a sex shop and walked out with a bag of angelfish, which must have been hilarious for anyone watching.
I was just gonna say, so anybody watching you out with those must have been like, have they expanded their line?
Hmm. It's like, well, I've heard of fish being used on people's feet, but now I'm curious.
Tanga fish.
Hmm.
It's the new line, Tanga fish. Oh, I'm sorry, it's already started. Oh, this Nordic has already started. But seriously, this is the funniest paper ever. It's maybe not as funny as Black Anality, but it's
We
up
started
there.
off too strong with Black Anality. This one I
I
don't think
know.
will be quite as enveloping, but
Oh God, here
maybe
you
it
go.
will be.
Is it gonna push deep though?
This
And
one will. This one has a lot more power to penetrate deeply into our minds and really start tickling the deepest recesses of our knowledge on society and feminism.
and I will say to Jeff Holiday fans, every time we say dildo, you are perfectly welcome to hear marital aid in your head. So
By all means, because we're probably gonna use that word as well, actually, throughout
I'm a
this.
marital aid. Yes, it's so funny. The few notes that I have, the first line of the fucking abstract, right? Censorship in patriarchal cultures. And I'm thinking to myself, the first note I wrote was, as opposed to all the censorship by the feminist left we have now. Like,
Hmm.
really? Censorship. Okie dokie. Because it's the feminist left that's like, diddle your little sister. That's fine. Make a book about it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's a feminist left that's like, sex toys for women? It's a right. Sex toys for men? You fucking sick pigs. So I'm like, the author already starts out with censorship and patriarchal cultures. I'm like, that's a bingo square. There you go, censorship and patriarchal cultures. And as for sex toys becoming difficult to get, and the author does get into, the history of the dildo, which is quite ancient and varied.
Mm.
Although reading about the ones originally made of camel dung kind of made me a little bit, but I did. I took one for the team teal. I researched it, so. But I not to put too fine a point on it, but dildos have been around for
You
a
don't
really
want them
long
with
time.
too fine a point.
Fine a point. Oh god. Dildos have been around for a really long time, and sex toys are great and everything, but it's not as though there's any shortage of agrarian means to secure phallic objects. That's all I'm saying. Okay. If you're buying zucchini or cucumbers at 3 a.m, you are not there for the vegetables. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So as all the chat goes, oh my god, Bunny, what did you do? But yeah, dildos are not. Yeah, modern sex toys. What the author is saying is that modern sex toys may vary in availability, and I'm like, yeah. And what did people do before them? Because it didn't seem to hinder anything.
No, not at all. Before the advent of like plastics and silicons, people were using all sorts of things. I mean, I would actually even be tempted to say that sex toys predate the humans, because you can find videos like on YouTube of like dolphins sticking their dicks in fish carcasses, and animals use
ducks.
Yeah. Ducks do things. I mean, have you ever had a dog hump a pillow?
Exactly. Or yeah. And I know people that give their dogs like designated fuck toys, literally.
Yeah.
Because they don't want them humping other things. And it's kind of like, this is just something that animals do. We really do. So it's putting it in a modern perspective as though you've discovered something. I don't know. But we'll see in the rest of this.
Yes.
Would you like me to continue with the next part?
I can't really think of anything else to say about this. So yeah, let's continue ever onwards.
Okay, now the author is continuing in her first person my lived experiences.
My live journal.
Exactly, my live journal. I remember live journal. You're not that old, or I am, or we are. It's all good. So the author continues. During a much welcomed tea break at a conference on disability and sexuality, that sounds like a fun time, Matilda, name has been changed, and I embarked on the idea of scouting Palika Bazaar for sex toys. We were excited. Matilda is a U.S. national living in India at the time. I was working in New Delhi with one of the first sexuality rights organizations in India. We decided to make the trip over a weekend. As the weekend approached, I found myself getting uneasy about the anticipated experience. We need a man to come along, I thought. Myriad images of Palika Bazaar as a male-dominated space with lecherous men making lewd gestures and remarks ran through my mind. I had heard many of my friends referring to it as not a place for good women, and had myself felt uncomfortable there during several of my previous visits. This trip would have the added disadvantage of 2 girls scouting for sex toys in this environment. It invited sure trouble. Dun, dun, dun. I just love I'm going to pause for a second because I have a note. I love the we need a man to come along, because this is a feminist paper.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm a strong, independent woman that don't need no man.
Oh, sorry, wait, no, we need a man.
Yeah, and that was actually a bit racist. Excuse me. This is because the author is a queer woman of color. So, pardon me. I am a strong, independent woman that does not need a man to assist. There you go. Is that less racist?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I don't want everyone thinking that all brown people look the same to me. I mean, fuck. So I have to change the accent up.
Of course. It is the only correct thing to do.
I agree. But yeah, we need a man to come along. So men are useful in some way,
as,
are they?
Bodyguards in that patriarchal society that, yes.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
I will continue because this could be its own stream.
It really could. It's just, can we just point out thus far, this is literally just all in this woman's head. It's just... it's literally, I wanted to do something, but I was scared that people might think stuff about me.
Oh, the author actually makes that argument 6 times in this paper.
Hmm.
Yeah, I counted them. So, like, it's that argument, "What will people think of me?" I'm like, "You are worrying too much about this." All I'm saying. So, Matilda offered that her male partner could accompany us. There was something still gnawing at me. Matilda and her partner did not know Hindi. Besides, Matilda was hearing impaired. She lip read. So, whereas she could have partly understood and participated actively in the communication, I would have had to do most of the talking. That made me nervous. What words would I use to say, "We're looking for a dildo"? Marilyn! No. Then there was the added barrier of language. Articulating this would be especially difficult for me in Hindi, I worried. How would I know what was available? Unlike many sex toy stores in some developed countries, in India, the products are typically not displayed for people to take a look at and hold. There would be no comfort of a conversation-free transaction. Instead, the threat of an embarrassing exchange loomed large. Embarrassing, buying a dildo.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay, that's a thing? Okay. Upon request, customers are often taken to darker rooms and hidden alleys as these toys are not for public viewing. I wondered how the good old Palika Bazaar was going to make sense of a curious trio comprising of a brown Indian woman, a white woman with hearing impairment, and a white man searching for dildos. And my note here is, I don't think they'll care as long as your money is good.
Yeah.
Yay! Free market.
That is normally how it works. This is sort of interesting, especially that you mentioned money, because obviously I was doing a lot of research on this, on the topics of India and sex toys. Many hours of research,
Oh, your
and
research on porn has been incredible on the statistics of what's being looked at, but
yeah,
people
but
can watch that. Yeah.
yeah, but it was very interesting. I was actually sort of reading through, like, what is India's, sort of sex toy trade like. Apparently, they have dozens of websites, and the total sex toy trade is booming to such an extent that in 2020, it's estimated that it's going to be worth 1.4 billion US dollars.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I, I mean, clearly, it's just one of those things, kind of like it is everywhere else, where you don't go about slapping it in people's faces, but everyone knows that everyone's doing it, and no one really cares that much, and
Yeah.
it's just a thing.
Person selling dongs is going to judge me for buying a dong.
Yeah,
Like, does not compute.
yeah. It's
They don't
when you
care.
go into a sex shop and it's like, "I'd like to buy a dildo, please." Like, if you're embarrassed by that, it's kind of like, have you seen what they've got in the back of some of those? Some of those, it's like, no,
Yeah.
just like a rubber phallus is like the tamest thing you can buy from those sorts of places.
It's true. Yes. I don't know. I think garter belts and that kind of stuff is probably the tamest. But in terms of actual sex toys, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's
Oh
a
no,
dong.
I mean shops where it is kind of like they have to legally have blacked out windows, sort of.
Yes.
Sort of
Yes.
those ones. The rubber dong is the most lightweight thing.
It's true.
Although
It's the
some
stuff
of
in the
them
back
can
that
get
runs
very
on
heavy.
diesel, you know?
Mm.
Too much information. Continue. Okay, here we go. I've been to Montreal sex shops. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So, so she is worried. Just to remind people who may be tuning in, this author is worried about how she will be judged, and she and her companions will be judged for buying dildos from somebody selling dildos.
Hey,
okay.
Can I just point out though, like, if you actually found a guy running a sex shop and like two women and a guy come in like looking for sex aids, he's probably more likely to just like give the guy a high five
him?
on the down low.
Yes!
You know?
Exactly. High five moment. Good for you, man. Oh, film it and sell it to me. Okay. In the end, I do not endorse the filming of people without their consent. Putting that out there. In the end, the trip did not take place because of our erratic time and work schedules. Inwardly, I was relieved. On one hand, somehow it felt liberating to be able to go looking for a dildo, especially being a single woman located in a deeply patriarchal society. On the other hand, I was curious about feminist debates about dildo as a tool of patriarchy. I wondered what this trip would have meant for a single Indian woman. What ideas would it generate about my character as an Indian woman, a single woman at that? What sense would people make of my sexuality? Would they immediately compartmentalize me as queer, or would it raise questions about my assumed heterosexuality? I'm going to pause here. My note, you are giving people way too much credit that they think about you that much.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing that happens in feminist circles. People don't give a shit. Okay, you are not that important to them, and that is very hard for many people to swallow, that you just are not that fucking important. Continuing, would they draw another meaning altogether? What sense would people make of Matilda as a woman with a disability willing to publicly claim her sexuality? I'm sorry, I'm starting to crack up. You may have to take over reading soon because I love Matilda so much in this. Having been trained as a feminist, through my degree in social work, it also raised questions about the feminist me. Would the feminist me approve of this trip? Or would I necessarily view it as flippant and irresponsible? Would scouting for a dildo with its phallic symbolism raise questions about my commitment to feminism and feminist politics? Since I also identified as a queer woman, I looked for answers within queer ideology and what it would mean to be looking for a dildo as a queer Indian woman. The same thing it means for everybody else, bitch. That's all I'm saying. It's dildo. Yep. Your hamster is on overdrive. Your hamster is on steroids. Stop. Through this paper, I explore some of the tensions that surround the concept of the dildo, some of which I experienced in anticipation of the trip that never happened. At the outset, I would like to mention, here comes the CV. We need a little pomp and circumstance. That wasn't what I was humming, by the way, but we need some trumpets here to announcing a non-disabled, brown, feminist, heterosexual, but queer woman. I mention this to acknowledge and lay out the privileges and disprivileges that I garner from some of these identity positions, as also to be an equal participant in discussing some of these identities and how they may impact me and others surrounding me. I mention this also to lay out my situated knowledge, situated knowledge as a woman, as a feminist, and as a queer woman. I'm interested in looking at how the dildo could be viewed simultaneously as a tool of oppression as well as liberation. Who does it oppress? And who does it liberate? I'm interested in exploring the multiple perspectives around the dildo. Though much could be... Okay, I'm good. Don't shock me. Though much could be said about the general availability and accessibility of sex toys, varieties among them, and who they seem to not cater to, in this paper I narrow my focus to the dildo and the varied perspectives on it from the standpoint of being a single woman in India. Since I identify as both a feminist and a queer rights activist, I am interested in exploring both feminist and queer perspectives on the dildo. I also want to explore any points of convergence and divergence between the two. This is the same as in the abstract for people going, didn't I already hear this? Yeah, you pretty much did. I acknowledge that there is no one feminist view, and neither is there any single queer view. Perspectives of one very often overlap with the other. Feminists can be queer, and queer people can be feminists as well. Through this paper, I look at these multiple perspectives to present a nuanced debate on the use of the dildo. My objective is not to pit one against the other, but to explore the varied perspectives that surround this next line, and perhaps weigh heavily on the dildo. I'm sorry, phrasing. Okay, I'm good. I'm composed. Compos mentis, we're good. Okay, but yes. So all of my notes for this part is
bitch, you overthinking shit.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. All of my notes are like, this is all in your head. Nobody cares who you are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Show up to somewhere, point at something, put your money on the counter, get it, walk away.
Yes, this is why women can't come, because they think about all these things.
You're too busy thinking about all of this shit. But I mean, at least, she's an Indian woman in India, so surely she has the brown privilege that she can just cash in. Or is India also a white supremacist society?
Well, I would say from this perspective, it's a white supremacist society, because there's not a single mention of that nobody at the bazaar cares who you are. It's like I haven't been there myself, but I have several friends who visit regularly, and in terms of the marketplace, it is all about the money. It is all about the, what do you want? What do you need? Is your money good? Let's do this. Like it's wonderful that way, according to them, because you can go and have a suit made in a day.
And you can actually usually haggle for shit if it's at a bazaar as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what this woman is scared of. She's like, oh no, I'm just a woman. I can't possibly, say, I'm not paying that. I want it cheaper.
Well, she did need a man with her because of the lewd and lecherous looks.
Well, yeah, clearly, because we all know
Yeah.
that's going to stop the lewd and lecherous look. A guy walking around like with two women going that's going to get a lot less lewd looks than,
Yes.
Yes, of course it
Yeah.
is.
But men are scary everywhere, Teal. Apparently.
Yes, they are, except the ones who are on your side, clearly.
Exactly. Who are completely quiet and just stand there looking imposing to protect you from things that you could deal with. Oh, wait.
I'm reminded of that, what was her name, the humongous crazy woman at the end of her videos, where she's
Joshi.
where she's flanked by all of those men just standing there scowling disapprovingly, and this little brown Indian woman is just like, oh, you're all patriarchal and you're mean, and I'm getting the men to tell you.
Yeah, what's your name? What's your name? Yeah, and yeah, she was clearly terrified.
Clearly, yeah. Absolutely. That's why very intimidated.
That's why she sought out confrontations with all of these men, because she was so scared. Yeah, no, I'm not buying it. I haven't bought it for a long time.
No.
But shall we continue past weighing heavily on dildos?
Yes, but I'm going to just go in for the last sentence of the above paragraph. I mentioned this to lay out my situated knowledge as a woman. It's this, again, this is another thing that feminists love doing. It's, I am this identity, therefore I have the knowledge, and no one else can have the knowledge, because because like empathy, sympathy, being able to project yourself into other situations, these are things that people are incapable of doing, clearly. So, you have to have an identity in order to understand a certain position, because otherwise it's impossible for you to understand. A position which I find very at odds with what a lot of feminists keep telling everyone about, how they're all these really empathetic people and all of that sort of shit, and yet this kind of position is like the opposite of it. It's literally saying, like, unless you are part of my group, you can't understand how I feel, so you need to listen to me and believe me and this and that.
I speak for women everywhere. Every time I open my mouth, this is what I've been told. So, and that's why I can't understand why things are still going the way they are, because as a woman, obviously, I speak for women.
Makes perfect sense.
I know, and yet things are still not changing. I don't understand. Oh my god. Oh yes. Weighing heavily on dildos. Yes. So a little history of the dildo, shall we?
We can have a little history of the dildo, I think. Might be good.
You may have to continue reading, because I'm starting to giggle. I'm going to get some water.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Thank you.
Just relax, breathe through it, and just slide straight on in there, and I believe in you. You can do it.
Oh my god. I tried the knocking over buildings thing. It didn't go well.
It's terrible. But if it helps, I won't watch. And you can just do this by yourself. I'll just listen to you. Does that make you feel more comfortable?
Yes, actually. Yes.
Okay.
Strangely.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. A little history of the dildo. Sex toys for the enhancement of sexual pleasure have existed in different socio-cultural contexts across time. Dildos and the likes of it have been present in the market for a long time, although their availability and accessibility differ across different cultures and countries. Certain texts talk about the early appearance of dildos in mid-1800s, with its beginning being marked by its usage by medical doctors to treat women with hysteria. And I'm going to give the citation, but I'm not taking the piss here. This is actually the citation, because it's Minge and Zimmerman, 2009. I died when I first read it. I'm like, oh, what an unfortunate name for this.
It really is.
Yes. There are other studies which mention the existence of dildos, taken from the term diletto in Italian, which means to delight, in Greece since the 3rd century, and modern rubber dildos have made their appearance since the 18th century, Decca 2005. Dildos could be used by people of varied sexualities in different contexts. They've been used by heterosexual people. For example, Chinese whalers would leave these devices with their wives when they were out on the sea to keep the wives satisfied while the men were away. my note, and there were no octopus available. Minge and Zimmerman 2009. Fisherman's Wife for the win. Dildos have been used in different contexts, from adding diversity to monogamous relationships to enhancing sexual arousal, pleasure, and libido, assisting older patients or those with chronic pain, people with sexual aversion disorders, or people who have undergone sexual abuse. Foz and Swank, 2013. Dildos have been marketed in women's magazines since 20th century to help women be more relaxed and content, Minge, etc. Dildos and other sex toys have been
So
available.
it did help to relax their minge as well, I would imagine. It's
phrasing!
This entire paper! Phrasing!
It's phrasing. It's true. This is so... Oh my... But I'm being controlled. But the first time I read this, I died. I was laughing so hard. Things came out my nose. It was awful. But I am dedicated to maintaining on your channel, Tail, because you have a high bar. You have a high bar. So I'm serious, buddy. I'm trying so hard.
Yeah, the bar is so high on this channel that you can actually see out of the anal window. You stand on that bar and you can see straight out of it. It's amazing. You will never have that experience on any other channel.
No, you can see forever.
You just have to get your eye right up next to it.
Oh my god. And now all the jokes are spinning in my head. No. Serious. Teal, we're talking about dildos here. This is serious fucking business.
It is.
Okay?
This is serious academic feminist discourse.
It is. It totally is, right?
Yep. We are talking about the things that you use to feed your machine of destruction.
Yes.
And that is feminist academic literature language right there. Important, serious. Let's go.
It is. It's training. It's training.
It is. Training so you can take that weight.
I was just thinking now I'm all the vaginal weightlifting stuff is in my head. Teal, why you do this? I'm now just like, 1, 2, 3. I got a tractor. Oh, okay, no, I'm sorry. Okay, paper, we're serious. We're serious academics. I'm not towing a tractor with my ham wallet. Okay, we're not doing this. Okay. Okay, serious. Okay, we're back to the serious minge. All right. So, dildos and other sex toys have been available in markets and in developed countries and are steadily making inroads. I'm sorry, making inroads. Everything is phrasing now. In developing countries, including India, while dildos are available in India, accessibility to sex toys, including dildos, could presumably be more difficult for people who belong to marginalized sections, including women, queer people, as well as people with disabilities. Okie dokie. In the next sections, I address some of my concerns and questions as a woman, as a feminist, and as a queer rights activist located in India. Because that gives me a peculiar perspective on the dong.
Yep. Because that matters. All of those individual criteria matter when you desire the dicking and there's no guy around to fulfill it and you have to just use a household object. All of those things are relevant.
Oh my god. This whole thing, I just as a side, and I actually think you should read my encounter with the dildo as a woman, because that would be fucking hysterical. But this whole thing reads like if this was a porn, which I would only give it 4 out of 10, I'll be honest. It's like Dildo Delights 2, Busty Bungra Bazaar Babes. I can see it in my head. I get another racist X for that. Sorry, but but it's still, you laughed, right?
Yes.
And yes. So this is the whole thing. It's so bad. And again, I'm like, I think you're using the dildo wrong if all you're doing is thinking about it. But on that note, please continue with your encounter with the dildo as a woman.
Yes. My encounter with the dildo as a woman, now available on DVD. In a setting such as India, where discussions on sexuality are still taboo, accessibility and availability of dildos, especially for women, is a challenge. Although women are venturing out of domestic spaces and their workforce participation in male-dominated workspaces have increased manifold in the last few decades, stereotypical notions of the good Indian woman still abound. Saddling both the domestic as well as work spheres, women today are required to carry a dichotomous image. They are expected to appear modern yet moral, women who are sexy yet compliant wives and mothers, women who are sexually desirable and yet sexually virtuous, as demonstrated through the carefully modulated responses and tones at international beauty pageants by Indian beauty queens. Also available on DVD. Middle-class sexuality in urban India thus operates with keeping the good woman whose sexuality is located within the private domain separate from the bad, who express their sexuality in the public domain. Also available on DVD.
It's a series. It's a series.
It is. Phrasing.
Yes.
Understanding and adhering strictly to the sexual scripts in both domains, and thus emerging as a modern, urban, sexy, middle-class, progressive, but respectable woman. One of the more boring DVDs I've watched.
It's in the bargain bin.
Cultural and religious norms also dictate the conduct of women both in public and private realms. Expression and articulation of sexuality often become a threat to the purity of Indian culture, and women relegated to and protected within the domestic sphere are often the beholders of this purity within the Indian culture. These notions about the modern Indian woman, however, do not translate into safer public and private spaces for women, as exemplified by the ongoing spate of media reports of sexual assaults on women from diverse socioeconomic classes, castes, abilities, and sexual orientation. The construction of the good Indian woman takes place through regulation and control of women at different levels, through strict codes of conduct within the family, educational institutes, and public spaces. Strict codes of conduct also abound at the levels of religion, caste, and class. Processes of regulation, especially related to sexuality and sexual conduct, become even stronger in cases of unmarried women and widows. Any expression of sexuality or intimacy in the public realm, especially by women, gets bracketed in the realm of the immoral and the obscene, while the fiction of private intimacy is permissible in the public domain. Making public the truly private constitutes an act of obscenity. Therefore, while sex toys, including dildos, are used in the private realm, the act of a single young woman venturing out to a public space in the outlook for a dildo is likely to be construed as obscene and immoral.
As opposed to all the married women who are doing it and receive absolutely no side eyes.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This really does seem to be like, how can I possibly twist this into making myself more of a victim? It's just, no, you just go and do it. It's no different for you if you're like married or single. The person behind the counter is not going to ask you all of these questions. They're not going to care.
Yeah, and this is so much of my notes through the whole thing. It's like, how do they know this about you? How would you know how they, like, until you suffer a consequence, why do you think you're being judged and why do you care?
Yeah.
She hasn't suffered a single consequence through this, and having read the whole thing, she doesn't suffer a single consequence for anything. This is all just, but I feel so oppressed. I feel so ashamed. And later on in this, to provide a bit of backdrop for why perhaps I'm coming to this conclusion, she actually talks about not being able to get rid of her own shame. And I'm like, well, that's your fucking problem.
Yeah.
Like, you just said it in the paper. I can't get rid of my shame. I'm like, well, you have two choices. Get over it or stop doing it. Or live with that.
Internet shopping.
Yes, that would be, that's, what most people do. But
India has a lot of websites for that sort of thing. I have researched them meticulously.
Research. Yes.
Yep. It exists.
You could probably give price quotes at this point.
Oh, more than likely. And wholesale prices to boot as well.
Alibaba's gonna hire you as a consultant soon.
Okay. One other thing before I venture on to the venturing
your experience
on
with dildos as a woman.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's very important, and I want to get all of this out before I take anything else in.
Oh my God, you got to make room.
Exactly. There's only so much I can handle at any given time.
If I
There
make
is
a
a limit.
if I make a DP reference here, are people going to think drunken peasants or no? Never mind. Go on. Go on.
Okay, so when she's talking about this, there's the good Indian woman stereotype and standard being upheld, and this is the question which I always ask feminists in this thing: is it women having this put on them by men, or is this women having this put on them by other women? Who is the one which is forcing women to view all of this, like owning your sexuality in public as being bad? Because I would put it to a lot of these women who make these sorts of comments that it's actually other women who are doing all of this judging.
It is very funny you say that because later on we get to the citation of Rubin and Thinking Sex, and it's the really juicy citation in this, and written, if I recall correctly, by a woman talking about how it's everybody else suppressing our sexuality, guys. But I do not think it is. When you even look at things like things that trappings of being attractive, right? So we're talking like lingerie or high heels or makeup or doing your hair and things like that. There is almost inevitably, or shaving, right? It is almost inevitably a feminist argument that says, well, you shouldn't do those things because all you're doing is feeding into the patriarchy. And then you have the other side, which says, no, I do them for me. And it's, but you're still feeding into the patriarchy. No, I do it because I like it. That's because of your internalized misogyny. No. And you get into this sex positive, sex negative, right chasm right down the center. So from my perspective, my experience, and this is only my feels, my experience has been I've received a lot more criticism from other women for the choices I've made regarding my sexuality than men. So, but again, that's only my personal experience. But men tend to be more like, I don't care. Women tend to be more like, well, how could you do that? But the irony of that is it sometimes flips, because when I have women coming to me and saying, hey, I totally cheated on my husband because I'm all empowered, I look at them and go, no, you're not. Like, that's, there are sexual choices and there are sexual choices. Like yeah, I can't get behind you on this one. So, I mean, I'm glad you got off, and I'm
Yeah.
sure he's very attractive.
I'm empowered
but
because I fucked up my trust connection with another person.
exactly. I'm like, I don't think that's being very empowered. I think it's just being kind of a cunt, frankly. Why do you feel the need to do this? Like, but I'm really big on like loyalty and shit. But there's a real all over the map double standard with sexuality and feminism in general, and the author does get into that a little bit in this. Yeah, to her credit, she does, because she does say some feminists are sex positive, some are sex negative. But I will say that overall, it's generally there's nothing to pin down in terms of what is empowering and what isn't, what is patriarchy and what isn't. It all seems to change depending on how well it bolsters your argument.
It really does. This is again
Yeah,
my biggest problem with the whole feminist patriarchy thing is it's like, oh no, it's the patriarchy theory. It's like, no, it's not. It's a
hmm
patriarchy assertion. There's nothing predictive about your theoretical model at all because it
exactly.
changes form according to whatever situation it best suits. It's like you take sexuality. It's like in some instance, okay, well, women doing all this grooming, oh, it's because it's for them. It boosts their confidence. It makes them feel better. Okay, well, that's fine. But on the other hand, no, but to someone else, no, that's patriarchal beauty standards. It's the patriarchy beauty myth, forcing you to feel like you should do that. It changes its form, and
Yep. See,
ugh.
attractive woman in a bikini on a sign, you'll get half of them saying she's too skinny. You're promoting a negative uh, body role model, and you'll see shit like, even though I'm totally fat, you need to be attracted to me, or you're a shithead. And but then on the other side, you've got, well, nobody should be telling her how to dress. If she wants to wear that bikini and be empowered, like on a slut walk, then she should be able to. It makes no sense. It's like there's no common element that I've seen. Anyway, I could be wrong, although I have had a fair bit of exposure to this. It just depends on what they're trying to promote at the time. Sometimes hookers are good, sometimes they're bad. Sometimes trans people are good, sometimes they're bad. It just depends on what you're trying to prove. And again, getting back to you raised a really good point, Teal. And again, getting back to Rubin, and because the author relies heavily on Rubin's article for what is considered a bad sex act to try and bolster her point. But if you actually read Rubin's article, there are a lot of sex acts in there that I think probably should be considered bad. So it's not a construct of patriarchy. It's a construct of, I think fucking 7-year-olds is wrong. I don't know. So it's all over the place. And this is a lot of, not to wax, because I know you probably have some very insightful things to say, but one of my frustrations when I watch the feminist hamster run in the wheel is how fluid it is, and how there's such a breadth of bullshit information now that you can actually, quote unquote, prove any point you want to make from a feminist perspective. And when you have that kind of subjectivity, I view it as very dangerous, because it will infiltrate every aspect of our lives. If you can just morph it, that patriarchy theory is somehow the cause of all ills, then you will find it creeping into our media and our government and our schools. And that's already happened. I mean, that happened 20 years ago. And that was what happened, because there is no objective way to say, but this is bullshit. Anyway, I'm sure you have something more insightful to say.
I was going to read on, but actually there is one thing, because I don't want this tangent to go on for too long. I'm sure people are very eager for us to continue on the actual thing. This is something which I noticed throughout this paper. We were talking about the beauty myth, and this is something that this paper seems to sort of do a lot. It's they want to have the power to do whatever they want, but then they fail to realize that other people have the ability and the right to disagree with your position on something. It's like, oh, I'm fat and you should find me attractive. No, I shouldn't. You can be that way. You can dress like that. I am under no obligation to treat you how you think I should treat you based on your act.
Exactly.
And I see that through this paper a lot. Like this woman, it's always like, oh, people, they should respect my decision. I shouldn't have to deal with this judgment when I go out to purchase a sex toy or something like that. It's like, no, people have a right to judge you for that action. They don't have to agree with you. They don't, but equally, it's none of their business. It's none of your business. You're projecting all of this onto other people anyway, but they still have the right to judge your actions anyway. So what are you going to do? You can't take that away.
No, but they want to, because now there's no line between someone having opinion and someone actually levying a consequence against you. I don't want to get off on the tangent too long, as you say, but here in Canada, there was a case of a jeweler who made a set of wedding rings for a lesbian couple. And apparently, even according to the lesbian couple, everything was fine. The rings were great. They were on time. It was perfect. But the next time they went into the shop, he had put up a sign that said, I support traditional marriage. It didn't say gas the gays. You know what I mean? It just said, I support traditional marriage. He didn't deny them service. He didn't treat them badly. Even according to them, he did not treat them badly. They demanded their money back simply because he put that up in the store. And it was a huge hue and cry here, because where does the line stop? I can understand them going, okay, well, maybe I don't want to patronize your business, but they'd already entered into a contract. And his personal beliefs have nothing to do with the quality of his craftsmanship. So they got their money back. He gave them their money back. He said, all right. And do I think it's a wise business decision to put stuff like that up in your business? Nope, I don't, because business is fickle. And especially here in Canada, where our economy is what it is, you kind of do need every customer you can get. However, I absolutely respect his right to do it. It doesn't, and him putting up that sign was not calling for gay genocide. It was not calling for all vegetarians to be rounded up and denied services. So it's kind of a slippery slope to me. I hate to use slippery slope. It's so fucking cliched, but with saying that the way people think is actually a crime.
And with that, I am going to continue so we don't tangent anymore. I'm gonna leave that there
because I think we could.
Yes. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to leave you hanging. It's fine. Okay. Continue onward.
I can fill the gap with something else. Go ahead, please.
And other frustrated sounds. Moving on.
Yes.
I wondered how my venturing out into a strictly male-dominated public space for a dildo would be viewed. As a woman with no external symbols associated with marriage, I could be easily perceived of as single. I wondered if people would instantly mark me as a slut and hence available. What notions would people draw about my sexuality? I wondered if people would perceive me as queer. I thought about notions in the public imagination about being a lesbian and the questions associated with the performance of lesbian sexuality. In the less possible scenario that people there did not think of me as queer and assumed my heterosexuality, of me being in a partnered heterosexual relationship, would there be additional questions regarding the status of my relationship, regarding the level of satisfaction and the role of my heterosexual partner within the relationship? I'm just so insecure, I literally cannot even anymore.
I know. You're just buying a dong. You should not be thinking about these things. You should be thinking about if it's dishwasher safe or not. Like, oh my god, go on. Okay.
Would they instantly draw assumptions of me being dissatisfied sexually with my current relationship and therefore in the lookout for a dildo? Could I claim to be part of the community of Podca's modern, urban, sexy, middle-class, progressive but respectable woman? Or would the tag of respectability be taken away from me? Additionally, I also wondered if it was perhaps more difficult for queer women to access public spaces for sex toys, including dildos. I imagined that I imagined it that while the public gaze on the woman, irrespective of her class, caste, sexual orientation, would perhaps be the same. The inner turmoil that each woman faced due to her particular experiences at the intersections of various social and cultural markers would vary from one woman to the other.
Well done. Oh my god. I'm gonna rewind back just to one line. The line about I also wondered if it was perhaps more difficult for queer women to access public spaces for sex toys, including dildos. And all I could think of was, does India have dyke detectors now? They're people wandering around. "Doo-doo-doo, you have a pubic hair in your teeth. It appears to be of female origin. Get her!" Like, really? They don't know. Nobody knows.
No.
Oh my god.
This is what happens when these sorts of people, like, I'd imagine if you looked at this woman's like Twitter bio, it would just be a list of all the things that she is. Like those people on Tumblr, it's like I am a demisexual, poly-whirling, triple wagging, head mating, all of this sort of nonsense. Like they throw all of this shit at you. It's like that's what I am. They don't allow like. They think that that's the most important thing, and they think everyone needs to know. It's like, this is what happens when you're someone who basically wears a fucking name badge of your identity all the fucking time, as opposed to just doing shit.
Look, Teal, I have to share with you my head picture now, because your impression of a Tumblr bio was so good. But I totally got an impression in my head of Milo Stewart in a Polyworld costume, like Polyworld cosplay, and it will be there forever now when I see Milo Stewart's picture.
Perfect.
Thank you. You've given me the gift that keeps giving. Oh my god. Oh, Justin used Polyworld. There you go. Okay, no. So funny. But yeah, and how would you even know? There's no not only do people not know unless you are constantly advertising it, which begs the question, is that why so many of these people constantly advertise it? Because they feel marginalized. So. They feel marginalized that nobody is noticing their queerness.
I would assume so. It's like they have. I think it is like they have to like advertise it so publicly that there's no way you could possibly not know. You know, it's like the people who sort of say, "Oh no, I want all of the gays to be absolutely flaming so that I know which ones are what." It's like, or they could just be like normal people.
Exactly, but I'm the only gay in the village.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
That is exactly what this sort of shit is.
Yes,
it's going down to a pub in a full-on bright pink latex gimp suit.
Boa, yeah,
Yeah,
feather boa.
and just like, yeah, I'm having a very gay evening this evening.
Did you notice?
What's the gayest drink that you have on your menu?
Yes, exactly. It's a Bellini. Just FYI, it's a Bellini. It's a peach Bellini. Okay. But it's so true. Why do you need to advertise this? Why do you need people to know all of this shit about you? Why is it so important? But I think this is how you get shit like, oh, you didn't serve me because I'm gay. And the person goes, no, I didn't serve you because it wasn't your turn in line. No, it's because I'm gay. I didn't know you were gay. Are you gay? Of course I'm gay. How could you not know I'm gay? I'm totally gay. Like, really? Nobody cares but you. Yeah, and all of this around buying a fucking dildo.
Yep.
Marmalade. Yes.
Absolutely. So
okay. I may have to I think maybe perhaps I should do the next part because you have no feminist background.
I do not know.
But this will actually be cleansing for me because it's like penance for the days when I actually thought feminism might have had a point if I squinted real hard.
If you need to have that deep cleanse, I will not deprive you.
I do. I need to be plunged deeply. So perhaps in a scene from Requiem for a Dream. Oh, we'll get to that later. Okay. So okay. The dildo and the feminist me. Oh, I feel so dirty saying that, but it's like confession. Bless me, internet frives. I was aware of the sociocultural stereotypes that saddled the. Are you fucking serious?
Phrasing.
Now? Phrasing. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, don't shock me. Don't shock me. I'm good. Okay, I was aware of the sociocultural stereotypes that saddled the body of the good Indian woman, and the cultural codes that every woman is supposed to honor in order to gain social respectability. As a feminist, fresh from my training in feminist philosophy, however, I was raring to bust the notions. I know. I was raring to bust the notions of the demure, submissive sexuality of the Indian woman, to acknowledge my sexuality as a single heterosexual woman, as well as inhabit public spaces such as the marketplace and be upfront about my sexuality. I was ready to claim my body upon which moral, religious, social, and cultural codes were marked as rightfully mine. But she still wanted a man with her, just FYI. Such a strong woman. However, I was also aware of ideas of sexual perversion that saddled the dildo. Okay, I'm good. Sex toys, including the dildo, have also been pervaded with notions of sexual deviation. According to Rubin's, this is the one I was talking about, general version of the sexual value system, the use of pornography, fetish objects, sex objects, or unusual roles would comprise bad sex. The use of dildos would therefore fall into this category, as it is not only considered as non-reproductive, but also as a sexual perversion. According to the sexual value system, all good sex behavior are relegated with virtue, whereas all those behaviors which count as bad sex are relegated as vice. This idea propagates the idea of a single ideal sexuality, and therefore all behaviors that do not adhere to this singular viewpoint are labeled as bad, sinful, and repulsive. And again, I alluded to this earlier, but the citation here, it's an article, Thinking Sex, and it does discuss it essentially, and it's quite partisan. It essentially discusses how the right have made all sex bad, but then the article goes on to say that it's really unfair that there's been so much prejudice against fucking pedophiles. Yeah, because they're just boy lovers, guys. It's an erotic orientation, and this is back in '84. Many other YouTubers have commented on the trend now for pedophilia to be recognized as a legitimate orientation and not a destructive mental condition or obsession, and what that means for our sentencing and what that means for rehabilitation and things like that. And many people are scratching their heads going, when did pedophilia become okay? 1984, guys. Ruben, here you go.
This is the thing which I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize. A lot of this feminist stuff that we're seeing coming to a head now has its origins as early as like the 70s and the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly so. I will, and you can, for anyone who wants to read it, it's Thinking Sex, Ruben. So you can look it up. But it's guys, you will drink bleach. It's bad. It's bad. So anyway, and yet it's cited here. Yay. As a feminist, I was also aware of radical feminist views, which question the use of dildo as well as all forms of penetrative sex. Ding, 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 we've all heard that. The term penetration has been used in a variety of contexts with different meanings, including the penetration of virgin lands by ancient explorers. Its use in pornography, mostly in the context of conquering, or seen as degrading in the context of rape. The act of penetration, that's bolso, the act of penetration has been considered as oppressive by many feminists. I think it was Marilyn French, All Sex is Rape, or something like that. In her article on compulsory heterosexuality, Rich84 has critiqued the idea of moving rape from the realm of the sexual to the realm of the violent, as that prevents people from questioning the institution of heterosexuality, which has normalized violence. According to Rich, differentiating rape from the sexual presupposes the latter to be consensual at all times and therefore nonviolent. She further discusses that the element of consent has little value in an overall context of patriarchy and male supremacy. So yeah, this is just more about the history of, all sex is rape, guys, FYI.
Yeah, just so you know, but it's so weird. Rape is something that has been universally punished. Especially if there are some times where you have sort of got away with it, and that's usually when it's used as a weapon of war, because then it becomes in-group, out-group. But rape within the in-group is universally hated.
I would caveat and say things like first night was pretty fucking rapey. So, but that was also the whole monarchy and feudal system, which was generally bad for everyone.
Yeah.
In many ways. So, in most ways, to be honest, in my opinion. So it's that whole we're kings and queens because God made us so do what we say. And but again, that might be another stream, the monarchy, yay. But which I geez, we could get off on a tangent here. What are your views on the monarchy, Teal? If we have time.
Monarchy amuses me for a number of reasons. Mostly because it is just, by divine providence, I claim all your shit.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not so much different from what's happening in governments in general, though. Except, and the divine thing isn't really referenced nowadays. But yeah, I need to do something on the fucking monarchy eventually. Anyway, but yeah, so kings and queens, I think first night was pretty fucking rapey. But you are correct that rape as a whole, it's not something that is looked at as yay, awesome. And what she's saying here in the study is she's citing the argument that that rape needs to be removed from violence and put into the category of being sex. And that's a pretty strong, I mean, we even talk about that. I mean, we in the general sphere of discussion, we talk about that a lot. Is rape a power thing? Is rape a sexual thing? Is it a sexual emergency thing? Is it just a power trip thing? And there's a lot of, I mean, I'm sure you know this already. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. There's a lot of data on both sides that says it's some of one and some of column A, some of column B. So, but then there's a third category where it's not rape at all. So, and yet we're calling it rape because it's penetrated. So, yeah, anytime a penis enters my body at any time, I'm being violated against my will.
Completely and utterly.
Yeah, and I kind of wish I could, if I really thought about it and I let my hamster go, as the author of this paper did, I might be able to turn that into a kink. Like, oh, patriarchy. Oh, oppress me with your patriarchy. Oh, show me how much money you make compared to me in the same job. Oh, it'd be so good.
That would be fantastic. All we need to do now is just create 33-cent bills or 33-cent coins to rain on them. So you just be like, bitch, here's all the money I made. Look at it.
Stuff it in my mouth. Yeah, stuff my panties in my mouth and say, those panties were twice as much as my underwear cost, bitch. Ha, pink tax. Yeah. Oh my god, there's a whole new genre of porn. It's patriarchy. It's patriarchy. Feminist patriarchy porn. My brain is going off on a tangent. Okay, refocus, buddy, refocus, because there's so many opportunities for this. It's so good.
Feel my oppression, you slag.
Exactly.
Internalize it. Ooh.
Oh, hey, there could be car dealership cuckold porn. No. We go into a car dealership, and the guy tries to charge me more, thinking I'm an idiot. And the guy I'm with is like, yeah, you double her. Yeah, you don't give her the prime interest rate. Yeah, you get the base interest rate, you slut. Yeah, give it to her. And oh my god, oh my god, it'd be so good. Yeah, sell her the air conditioning we don't need. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Oh my god, my brain.
You
Stop.
want the
Okay.
optional extra trim? Oh, that's it. You're a bad girl, aren't you?
Exactly. I'm dying. I can see it in my head. And there's another scene. I don't want to waste all of my brain space because there's another scene coming up when she starts talking about sex toy parties with women. Because I got another scene in my head that I want to share. Okay, but I'm refocusing. We got to get there. Okay. But Teal, you are way too good at that. I'm just saying, if your real life doesn't work out, you have an alternate career. You do. It'd be so good. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wait, for those who got distracted by Teal's porn voice, as I did, we're talking about.
Please don't. You'll make the shipping a million times worse.
Oh no, it can't get worse. It cannot get worse.
It's true.
It cannot. I'm sure. I haven't even looked. I'm scared. I am scared of the drawings. I'm scared of them. It may burn themselves into my brain, and I'll never be able to go to a petting zoo ever again without getting erect. So, okay.
Oh dear.
In the prevailing conditions, Rich calls for women to proclaim themselves to be women-identified women. She calls on women to get into exclusive relationships with women to counter the norms of the heterosexist culture, which puts women in secondary positions to men. Rich talks about male hegemony in society and its manifestations, amongst others, in denying women their sexuality, use of force on them, exploitative labor conditions, as well as being used as objects in male transactions. See, that's a car dealership. That's what I'm saying. Women in this kind of patriarchal culture have been considered to be bereft of agency, to be the initiators of sex in heterosexual relationships with men. Enjoying penetrative sex is therefore considered as adhering to the norms of a heterosexist and patriarchal culture, which looks at women as passive and the penetrated. I will say as a side point, the whole women not being initiators of sex now, this has gotten worse recently, but I will say for about the last 20 years, men have been getting progressively less and less likely to initiate sex due to all the bullshit that can happen to them if they do. So now it's very much female dominated, and which is funny because then you hear girls complaining, well, why isn't he asking me out? I'm like,
yeah. Where have all the good men gone? I don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe they're terrified of rape allegations.
Exactly. Why won't he go on an alone date with me? I'm like, maybe he's trying to determine if you're going to charge him with something later. Yeah.
Why does he want a chaperone?
Exactly. Why does he want a chaperone? Exactly. It's like 200 years and we've come full circle, right?
So my boyfriend is like, this guy that I'm seeing, he asked if his friend could join in, and then he explained what he actually meant. Yes. It wasn't what I thought.
Exactly. It was not what I thought at all. Oh, it's true though. It's true. And there's been a lot of criticism of guys. Well, you've become pussies. You're just betas. You take her. It's like Grace Jones and Conan. Grab him, take him, grab her, take her. Well, you fucking can't. Okay, so you have to find the balance. If you have to choose, but choose wisely, as the movie says. So, and I actually don't fault guys that are like, you know what, I'm just not gonna, it's not really a priority for me. I got shit to do. So, but yes, so we're talking about penetration. The use of penetration is discouraged not only in heterosexual relationships with men, but also among exclusive relationships among women. Yeah, you lesbians, penetration bad, right? Patriarchal narratives also discredit the idea of clitoral orgasms altogether, thus upholding vaginal orgasms. I have not seen the patriarchal orgasms. She gets to Freud, right? Well, Freud has talked about the natural progression of a woman from clitoral orgasm to vaginal orgasm as a sign of maturity. Some feminists refute the notion of vaginal orgasm altogether. You are doing it wrong, okay?
Maybe this is why some of them are so uptight.
Right? This is what I'm saying. There's I have heard occasional rhetoric about the clitoris isn't that important, which I guess it would depend on how you're wired. But to discount vaginal orgasms as impossible, I'm like, no, that's not right either. It's pretty complex up in there. It's like a little Rubik's cube made of raw chicken. It's there you go. There's some fat material. Rubik's cube made of raw chicken. My sexy talk brings all the boys to the yard. So but this narrative of women can't have orgasms from regular heterosexual peen in vagina poles and holes. I'm like, no, they can.
So you can, and in fact, the more you do it, it comes easier. Just
it's funny, and it's funny you say that, because it's true. The more you do it, the more the synaptic pathways are strengthened, and you actually build G-spot muscle. Like the G-spot spongy tissue gets thicker and thicker, and it gets easier and easier. So you're exactly correct. Science. So
science says women just take the dicking. Okay, just the more you do it, it'll be better.
It's true. But you're not allowed to say that, because the dicking, that's... Oh, and we get into this as well. Is a dildo representative of the male member? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, guys, because that's what is normally supposed to go up in your coochie. So
yeah,
just hate to tell you that, but yeah, it is kind of a representation of men. Sorry, but it's kind of what we're sexually dimorphic and all that bullshit. So, but yeah, so we're talking about people who don't understand how women come. Again, yes. What? Oh, here we go. Although Rich does not talk about the use of dildos in facilitating penetrative sex among women, the questions which emerge are: what role does dildo play in sexual relationships among women? Does the use of a dildo make these same-sex sexual relationships among women necessarily non-feminist? Thinking about it too much. Yes. Yeah. Unlike the man's body, which is closed, not all the way.
What?
A woman's body is considered open and boundaryless.
What?
Also, yeah, exactly. And wow, okay. And therefore, the use of the dildo has often been signified as the... Are you kidding me? Okay. And therefore, the use of the dildo has often been signified as the filling of the void or the lack. Minge and Zimmerman again. Phrasing. A number of discourses therefore proliferate the usage of the dildo. While one of the discourses clearly signifies the woman as the one who lacks in relation to men, clearly suggesting the rhetoric of penis envy among women, there are other discourses that signify that dildos were used to keep women under control, and still others which suggest that dildos were used by women to pacify themselves. Well, yes. Yes.
That was the point. It stops you from being a bitch.
Because there are those few days a month where you just want to fuck your mailman. I'm not gonna lie. Ovulation is rotten, and most women don't pay attention to this is chick shit, Teal, but view it medically. But
well, yeah, I do. It's welcome to the hormone pattern of the cycle.
Exactly. And we don't have necessarily overt signs of estrus or receptivity, right? But at the same time, we do, in terms of behavior and sometimes in terms of vascular flushing. But like the lips get a little bigger and redder and the cheeks get a bit redder. But mostly it's female behavior. There are there are a few days a month where you look at your mailman like, I wonder what he looks like under there. It's like, wait, what am I thinking? No, I am not. I do not normally do this, but the thought just comes up. And it's your body telling you, hey, remember me? Remember me? I'm your reproductive system. I'm still here. I know you hate me, but I'm still here. But you don't have to act on it, right? You don't have to act on it. But I find being aware of it helps you control. It helps you control it.
Yeah. Well, it is actually very interesting again that you mentioned that, because even the things where it's like, no, the lips plump and you get a bit red and all that stuff. It is interesting when you actually look at especially things like use of makeup and beauty products, sexy clothing and things like that. That also correlates to women's ovulation cycles. Women actually doll themselves up more when they're at the high point of that. So even socially and from a consumer standpoint, that all fits in as well. And it kind of tells you, like, this is a really serious thing that actually changes your behavior in quite obvious ways if you're looking for it.
And I think it's important to be aware of it. And this is something I've talked to many women who are in relationships, and when you talk to them and you talk to them 1 week and they're so in love with him and he's amazing and it's the best sex ever, and then a couple weeks later she's like, oh, why am I with him? Oh, he's disgusting. And I'm like, you are on the hormone choo-choo. Like, he becomes more attractive to you when you're ovulating. Welcome to your uterus. This
Yep.
is what it does. Okay. But you have to engage the brain. You have to engage the brain and go, okay, my body is a total horn dog right now. It is lying to me. I need to make good decisions.
Yep.
So yeah, ovulation is a bitch, but you can control it, and or at least be aware of it and control your behavior. But no, it's all men, right?
Yep.
Because women never want sex.
Nope.
Ever.
There is no drive that women have to ever want to be near or around men under any circumstances. That's what feminism has taught me.
It's true. It's all oppressive. All sex is rape. Okie dokie. Okay, so we're getting into homosexuality. See, finally, right? Well, oh no, wait, no, this is still on the lesbians. See, and that's the interesting thing. I have some notes on this later. There's a lot of stuff on queerness and a lot of stuff on homosexuality, but there's only like 2 references to gay men who do not understand penetration at all, y'all.
Of course.
Like, of course not.
Nope.
Penetration has nothing to do. Nope. It's all about the women.
Well, it's because men's bodies are closed.
They're closed.
Yep,
they're totally
completely.
closed.
Yep.
Okay.
They are sealed hypodermic locations. That's
Bastions
all it is.
of toxicity.
Absolutely.
Clearly. Oh my God, this is so funny. Okay. The use of a dildo, Marilade, in homosexual relationships among women can be considered by feminists such as Rich as conforming to the norms of a heterosexist culture which privileges penetration. In a study by Smith, some women who were in sexual relationships with women shared their anxieties around the use of dildos in sexual activity, as they feared that the use of dildo was indicative of their repressed desire for heterosexual sex and thus render them less of a lesbian. Because there's a purity test, guys. It has nothing to do with your preferences. Anyway, okay. Therefore, although some lesbians may be interested in penetrative sex, they may hesitate to use dildos, as it could be construed as eroticizing and upholding masculine hegemony.
Overthinking it.
Yeah, just a little bit. One of the major contentions with dildo has been its likeness to a penis, and therefore its investment in phallic symbolism. Oh, here we go. We're getting good here. The chainsaw is being fueled. It is therefore perceived as representative of a man, also, because the dildo signifies the phallus. Its function and use within lesbian sex serves to erase or discredit lesbian desire, rendering it as an imperfect desire of the penis, and loading it with masculinist narratives of supplementarity and penis envy hemming. Studies point out that women have often personified their sex toys and dildos, substituting them for real people, mostly male, and imagining a relationship with their male sex toys. Faz and Swank. I know chicks who do this. It creeps me the fuck out. So, yes. Bolso discovered varied responses to the dildo in her research with lesbian women. Some lesbian women in dominant sexual relationships with other women did not want to be penetrated by a dildo. While they considered being penetrated by hand to be acceptable, penetration by dildo represented a man for them. They were, however, agreeable to penetrating their partners with dildo. One woman found herself clumsy with using a dildo, although she felt quite in control when using her hand to penetrate her partner. Here we go. See, it's getting good now. In this case, she perceived of herself as a second-class man. Also, I just totally lost my little getting into it there. Second-class man, feminist rhetoric. These responses... Yeah, overthinking it yet again. Because I'm like, yeah, quite in control, using your hand, penetrating your partner, perceiving yourself as a second-class man. Oh, man, you totally ruined it. You ruined my girl boner. Damn. These responses demonstrate how the respondents saw the likeness of the dildo to an actual penis and therefore a man. It's a man, baby. However, it is not necessarily the act of penetration itself that made some of these women in sexual relationships with women uncomfortable, but the likeness of dildo to penis. which is saddled. That's the third time this person
Phrasing.
just saddled. She's doing it on purpose. Third saddled in a row. Like, really? With phallic symbolism for some women. Yeah, because okay. I have a lot of notes on this page, but you go for a while. I've been talking. You probably have points too here.
Because of your anatomy, there is a necessary shape this tool has to be.
Yes. Exactly.
That's it. You can't use a Rubik's. Well, maybe you could, but you have to build up to that.
Yes, it's true. Oh my god, dildos look like penises. How is this happening? Something designed to go in my vagina looks like
the thing that normally goes there. Oh my god, oh my god, it's crazy.
My pearls.
Outrageous. Oh dear. Maybe you should just use a string of pearls. You can get those in all sorts of sizes, made out of all different things. Use those instead. Some of them jiggle. How about that? Is that better for you, or is that too much like a set of testicles?
Oh, it probably would be, actually.
You know, it's because you know, testicular insertion is a whole other thing. Yes, it actually is. Oh dear.
Yeah, I know it is. I've seen it a few times, but honestly, I didn't find it sexy in any way. I was more just impressed.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm like, wow.
You got some swing on that.
But it's the same.
She's clearly not clenching very hard.
Have you ever seen a woman who can tie her labia in a knot? That
yes.
is impressive. It is impressive. I'm not even grossed out by the beef curtains. I'm like, you need a show. You need to be in Vegas. Like,
well,
this
why
is
not?
amazing.
Genital acrobatics is a thing. There are actual stage shows where you can get things like guys forming their junk into all sorts of weird shit. It's like hand puppets, but with genitals. Yeah. It's actually a thing. So, I mean, sure, why not?
I know, but I don't find it sexy, but I'm just like, good for you. Like, you're working with what you got, babe.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, just before we go on, because I'm me and I want to actually be a little bit serious instead of being in the silly place. I actually looked up like numbers of sort of sex toys, basically how many people actually have them, how many people actually use them. And there was a female survey done on a website called healthystrokes.com. I'll just highlighted a couple of paragraphs, which I'm going to read off here. 86% of females reported stimulating the clitoris in masturbation. 74% inserted fingers or objects into their vaginas at least some of the time. Some of them frequently mentioned objects were candles, dildos, vibrators, cucumbers, carrots, bananas, hairbrush handles, bottle tops, pencils, and markers. Less frequently mentioned were icicles, teddy bears, wooden sticks, and hammers. Younger respondents seemed to make do with electric toothbrushes, and then they actually took some numbers on that, and 58% reported using pictures or videos, 35% used lubricants, 51% used vibrators, 33% used dildos, and 26% used other masturbatory aids. So it's really quite common. Even if you assumed there was 100% overlap in all of those numbers, you're still looking at 51% as a minimum, but it looks like it's closer, sort of 50 to 70 something percent. You're looking at half to 3/4 of women using some sort of masturbatory aid here. And I even found another thing, Psychology Today, from Gadsard, of course, because this man seems to have all of the same interests that I do when it comes to studying, on the use of vibrators among American women, because this was, again, looking purely from consumer behavior standpoint. And again, he references studies which find it was about 50-something percent. So, you know, you're looking at half or more than half of women have these things and use them. Why is there this constant thing? It's like, oh, it's so shameful, no one should do it, and all this. It's like, by raw numbers, it's a coin flip. You walk down the street, every other woman has a little friend in their top drawer by their bedstand, right?
That they may have named.
Yeah, so, very possibly. Yeah. So why all of this? It just seems to be, I'm insecure about what I want. let me project that onto everyone else.
I think you're exactly right, and that's why throughout this whole thing, and especially with the I couldn't get over my shame. I'm like, well, that seems to be a personal problem because there are a great many women who have no personal shame about this, and it's really not a big deal. And I also I will say I don't think, in terms of functionality, I don't think there's a lot of thought going into, am I becoming a tool of the patriarchy because my rabbit is pink glitter and looks like an actual man's penis? I think it's more like,
If you've got
hey,
a rabbit that looks like an actual man's penis, you've been with some really weird guys. Some of those devices that you find in sex shops look more like instruments of torture. It's like, I get what this bit's for, but what the fuck are these other 4 things?
Well, and it's funny because Sex in the City, yes, what the fuck are these other 4 things? And but you know, if you ask the nice blonde older lady with the glasses on the chain around her neck, she will demonstrate it for you every time. You know, there's always that kindly old matrony. It's all right, darling, I'll show you.
Yeah.
But Sex in the City really popularized sex toys, and as horrible a show as it was certainly good for the sex toy industry.
I would imagine in the same way that 50 Shades of Grey was very good for the kink part of that industry. They saw an explosion of interest.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think the commercial side of the kink industry saw an explosion. Did the quality of the kink community go up?
Nope.
No. No, not
way
at all.
down. I'm new to this. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, turns out it's like, my partner, their face is going blue. What do I do, guys?
Oh, it's yeah.
What kind of knot did you use? I don't know. I just tied it on. Well, that might be the problem.
Yeah, and actually, for not to get off too much on a tangent, for me, one of the more pernicious things that came out of that was actually the idea of a contract. Because where I live, I mean, I don't know if you've read 50 Shades of Grey. I forced myself to read it because I had to read it so I could understand, because I was part of the kink community and I had to understand what people were fucking talking about. So, and there's a contract in it, right, that she signs with him and all this good stuff. And so there were a whole bunch of people who suddenly thought, well, if I make a contract, it makes everything okay, right? And where I live, you cannot sign a contract. You cannot actually consent to any bodily harm. Even in sports, it can get really dodgy. So, which is funny because, you know, hockey, right? But so even if you sign this contract, if somebody feels that you were a little too rough with them, they can go to the police and you're boned. So contract is not worth shit. And I think
in that part it is maybe in the book it's phrased as more sort of one of those power dominant fetish things. Like, it's just like, it doesn't mean anything, but it's just like part of the...
In the book it was pretty legal. It was
really?
Pretty legal. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
That's
in the book
odd.
it was, yeah. I require everyone to sign this for legal purposes before I engage with them. It was, and it really, to me, it really gave people a false impression that, well, if you sign a contract, everything will be great, right?
Yeah.
And no.
I still like, was it really like, no, this is legal, like you have his lawyer there sort of thing? Or
he had his legal team review it, yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, and I am not making this up.
That's terrible advice to be giving to people. That's a terrible image to be giving to people.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
So, but anyway, moving on from kink to dildos.
Yes.
Because we should get through this eventually.
Yep.
Although you had some good points there, and you're exactly right that this is not a taboo thing anymore, guys. It's Although, to be fair, I don't know what it's like in India. I know what it's like here. So I don't know what the demographics are there. So I'm just putting that caveat out just in case. I really don't know. Maybe it's totally different there. I don't know.
Well, when you have a sex toy industry that's approaching 1.4 billion a year...
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. Make of that one what you will.
Okay, but we have to go on because I'm about to be oppressed.
Of course.
Help, I'm being oppressed. Penetration by dildo thus becomes symbolic of being subjected to the phallic order, which is oppressive to women. I'd like to be subjected to some phallic order. No, sorry. Just like a lesbian's use of the dildo may signify a repressive desire for heterosexual sex, some straight women also fear using the dildo as it threatens their male partners about their penis. Smith. Besides the idea that the dildo is a phallic signifier, some feminist theorists also reject the use of a dildo, as it discourages women from using their hands for sexual pleasure, thus possibly alienating women from their own bodies.
Well, let me approach this
Yes.
as the anal theorist that I am.
Do you have the t-shirt? I'm waiting on mine. I'm waiting on my anal theorist t-shirt.
In that situation, a sex toy would be preferable. Because, first of all, you can grade them accurately and reliably, and there's a hygiene aspect regarding your fingernails as well, so...
Thank you. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Nice to see my anal theorist knowledge that I've acquired has been paying off there.
Yep, you've been researching hard.
I'm a feminist academic, me. Ooh. All
Do you
those
research several
long
times a
hours
day?
of research, they've really paid off.
Long hours.
Do
you have to
very long hours.
It's true.
Oh dear.
But this is a real thing. There is an actual line of thought from the feminist end of things that says you should be able to get yourself off with your hands. That is great for some women, right? It is not great for all women. Because I would have to dislocate shit, and I don't want to get off that bad. Well, not right now. Ask me at the time of the month. So ask me when I'm ovulating. But no, there is a thing that says you shouldn't rely on toys. You should just be able to use your hands. It's a thing. And I'm like, well, that is great for all of y'all, but especially for me. And as you mentioned, the hygiene aspect, I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
Because no. I like things I can bleach without blistering, not to put too fine a point on it. But yes, so now that everyone in the chat is like, what the fuck has happened to Teal's channel? But yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
So we
chat.
discussed hygiene.
Both hands on the desk
Yes.
before we go any further. I've let you off for now, chat, but just...
You're going to get them off for now?
I am.
Oh. I thought that's what I heard. Maybe it's just me. Oh, we're ready to... subverting. Ooh, here we go.
Yes.
Although I was ready to subvert stereotypical ideas of a woman's sexuality as passive and submissive, radical feminist notions such as those mentioned above made me question if I was being feminist enough to go out looking for a dildo. Purity test. Would I be doing a disservice to my feminist friends and mentors by participating in this venture? I did not identify as a lesbian and did not agree with Rich's idea that to be a feminist, one had to give up all relationships with men and enter into women-only relationships. Well, that's a plus. Neither did I believe that using a dildo would necessarily mean adhering to patriarchal norms. I agreed, however, that within the discourse of compulsory heterosexuality, heterosexual penetrative sex can be oppressive to many women, whether in marriage or out of it. There you have it, folks. Heterosexual penetrative sex can be oppressive to many women, whether in marriage or out of it. Keep in mind, we're not talking about rape here. We're talking about
consensual
heterosexual
sex.
Yep.
No matter how much you are screaming, yes, I want it, give it to me, do it harder, you're being oppressed.
Go on. No, sorry, no. There's so many quotes here that I'm gonna pay people to say for me. No, for later.
Yes, of course.
Neither did I believe. No, where? Oh, yes, here we are. In certain instances, dildos have also been used by male partners as a tool of coercion on their female partner, many a times to actualize their sexual fantasies. Okay, tool of coercion, actualize their sexual fantasies. Tool of coercion, actualize their sexual fantasies. So is it a tool of coercion or is it
a sexual fantasy?
Yeah.
This sounds like a rape fantasy to me, if I didn't know better.
Exactly. It boggles my brain how this whole paragraph is boggling my brain, because it's mixing the all sex is rape and all sex is therefore violent, and even when you're giving women what they say clearly, please fuck me harder, please. Nope, it's coercion.
Yep, of course it is. You're still being coerced by your own desire, because the guy used your biology against you by being handsome or witty or funny or whatever it was that, you know,
Smelling good.
yeah,
Smelling good is important.
yeah, just
Yeah,
whatever it was that got you in the state where you could drown a toddler in your panties, that it was
exactly.
him being evil.
Yes.
It wasn't your desire.
No, actualizing my sexual fantasies? You fucking bastard. How dare you make me come 50 times an hour? Damn it. I'm so oppressed. Oh, no, it's true
Oh
though.
wait,
But
so
this
coming
is in
50
the
times an
study.
hour is oppressing. That's really interesting because we previously worked out on a live stream that 40 thrusts per minute is oppressing women. We're getting some really good objective measurements for rape here.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so yes, tool of coercion, sexual fantasies. They have also been used on women for sexual assault and rape. I don't doubt that, actually. In instances such as these, the dildo fails to be used as a tool of subversion and, in fact, is used to further oppress women. That would be why it's sexual assault and rape, not a sexual fantasy.
What about men who have them used upon them?
Oh, yes, and this is what I was
Because
saying
that's one
earlier.
way that
Men don't
women
count.
do rape and abuse
Mhm,
men is by forcefully doing things that they don't want. So
mhm.
where does that fit into this? Oh, who am I kidding? It's men. They don't care.
Yeah, women can't assault men. Your bodies are closed.
It's true. They're so closed, a dildo could never be used upon you.
No, it's like you're the Hulk, it just breaks. It
Yep.
just bounces off. Fuck. That's why the laws are what they are. This woman has solved the legal crisis. This is why women can't rape men. Your bodies are closed. Okay. I have to laugh because it's actually pretty hideous. And horrible. But the idea presented here in this paper is that men's bodies are closed. There isn't any talk of dildos used on men in any kind of coercive or rape or sexual assault way. Nope, it's all about the women's, of course. So complicated. Oh, here we go. It can be especially complicated for those women whose memories of sexual penetration are marred by violence and sexual assault, which never happens to men. We just went through that.
Mm.
For some of these women, the idea of a dildo may be oppressive and a reminder of their traumatic experiences. However, such discourses often leave out voices of women who have been raped or sexually abused, but have discovered the dildo as a device for regaining control over their sexuality. Within discourses of feminism, I was also riveted to the idea that the dildo could be used as a tool to transform the experience of oppression into a more meaningful and possibly pleasurable relationship with one's body and oneself. Minge and Zimmerman, I'm still laughing. Oh my god, I'm Beavis and Butthead, obviously, have considered the dildo as a device to derive pleasure and subvert dominant masculine sexuality. They use the concept of bricolage to transform, challenge, and subvert the meanings associated with sexuality and other contentious terms in the dominant culture. Through the use of dildo, they have attempted to subvert the negative associations of dildo with heterosexual penetration and reclaim penetration as desirable and pleasurable. As long as it's not a man doing it, as long as it's a piece of rubber. There you go. They discuss how one of the authors, after her past experiences of sexual violence and rape, found it difficult to dissociate the act of penetration from her negative experiences. However, she has been able to find new pleasure in penetration through the use of the dildo and views it as a rebirthing tool for sexual prowess.
Phrasing.
Although, yep. Yeah, no. Although the dildo may be read as a phallic signifier because of its resemblance to the male penis, in this instance, it has been used as a tool to overcome fears attached to penetration, subvert notions of dominance and control within the act of penetration. With the use of dildo for self-penetration, it is still the self who is in control and not the object of penetration, namely the dildo. And reclaim one's sexuality. Remember, one is being acted upon and one is acting.
Mm.
Here you go. Dildo, therefore, offers opportunities for women who have undergone sexual assault and violence to reclaim their own sexuality and not view all penetration as necessarily oppressive and threatening. In other words, all the good of a dicking, no investment, no triggering, but sex robots for men, totally patriarchal.
Absolutely. Entitlement to women's bodies and viewing them as objects. Disembodied penis, A-okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that is never addressed anywhere in this paper. Kelsey
Nope.
agrees. I'm going to have a heart attack and die of not surprise. So, feminism.
Yeah, just
and
before we go on,
feminists.
can I just...
Mm,
Am I the only
yeah.
person who finds the fact that they just keep saying dildo, like just the way they phrase it in senses, like to me grammatically it always seems like it should be a dildo or the dildo. It's like they're saying someone's name.
Oh, they're trying to make it synectical, I think. So it's like a thing. It's one representing the whole. It is
Okay.
dildo. I'm not a dildo, I am dildo.
I have
Dildo
become dildo.
Dildo Daggins. There we go. I'm sure there's a porn out there titled that. I swear. I'm not gonna look, but I'm sure there is. I don't really go for like fantasy porn, but I'm sure it's funny. They're just the right height for many things. So, but too much information. Okay, I'll just continue on, shall I? So here we go. I can hear people tapping. Is there Lord of the Rings porn? Tap 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 tap.
Oh, there he is, and keep going. My nerd boner has expanded too much.
It's all right. There's several more pages, so just make sure you build up slow. Yeah, don't end too soon. Feminism and feminist thought have always been forthcoming and encouraging of women to develop more meaningful relationships with their own bodies, to be more in control of their own sexuality, and to fully acknowledge, respond to, and express one's sexual desires. Yeah, feminism and feminist thought have always wanted women to respond to and express one's sexual desires. How about the ones that have sexual desire for men? So this first sentence is like, sorry, cross it off. You've already proven yourself wrong here. You should have just taken that out. This should have been edited out. It has encouraged women to be aware of their right to full bodily integrity. And hey, you got to get the abortion check in there. That's on the bingo card too. And the right to be free of coercion and abuse. I was aware of several feminist groups that encouraged women to acknowledge and be in touch with their own body. Ooh, the Vag workshops. In India, too, I was aware of feminist gatherings by women's rights activists conducting workshops with women, encouraging them to know their bodies better by feeling and touching and having a look at themselves and their genitals. Therefore, even within feminism, the use of dildo need not be viewed singularly as a tool of oppression. As an extension to these workshops of self-awareness and awareness to one's bodies, dildos could very well be used to break the silences and taboos related to sexuality, explore one's own pleasures and desires, and transform one's relationship with the self as well as with the partners. Okay, so feminism wants these workshops to help women get in touch with their bodies and explore their sexuality and look at their genitals, but Pee Wee Herman does it once, and he's done. Yeah.
All of the double standards. Every single one of them.
Now, mind you, he did it publicly, so that might have had something to do with it. I'm just saying, when are men ever encouraged to get together in groups and explore their genitals as a way of getting in touch with themselves? And I mean,
well, I can think of a few places.
I was just
online.
gonna say, I'm not talking about ones with a lot of clean towels available. Okay, I mean like straight men. Yeah, a bunch of straight men. We're gonna get in touch with their bodies this weekend. Yeah, get some beer. It'd be great. No. We do not need to do this. This is major cringe.
It's just unnecessary. This is the problem when you try to politicize sex. This is all this is. We want to politicize it, and just it's the most cringeworthy shit.
It is the cringiest thing ever. I went to a feminist workshop back in the bad old days, and they were actually making castings of their vag, and I just was like, nope. I'm like we're talking like putty that would be molded and then let dry, and then you'd have a perfect replica of your lady garden. I'm like, where would I put this? People gonna come over and make it into an ashtray? It'll be like an Amsterdam dirty like movie. Like
maybe
it'd be maybe, but no. I'm like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? Do you not? Oh,
were they secretly manufacturing fleshlights in the back or something?
Trust me, none of those women would sell. So I'm just putting not.
And here's Barbara from next door.
Yes, exactly. Last chicken in the shop. All I'm saying, there are not very many attractive genitals generally, but it gets harder and harder to find symmetry when you've got much more skin and fold.
Hey, I bought this special edition one where you can tie the labia in a knot. This is my fleshlight of choice.
Oh my god! It's easy storage. You can just hang it up on a hook. I'm just imagining it now. What's that hanging behind your door? Nothing. Ignore it. It's fine. It's art. Oh my god, it's in my head now, Teal. But hey, how is that any different from the dicks with suction cups you can stick on the walls, right?
It's true. It is true.
You just stick them to the walls, and it's like art. You can't hang things on them because they're too floppy. But
Yeah.
it'd be funny if
you got to get those
actually.
upward curved ones. They can. I've said too much.
Yeah, but you know what's okay? Well, you know what's funny? Not that you've ever done this, of course, but they actually make a sproing noise. Like when you the ones with the suction cup. No, it is the funniest thing. If you stick them somewhere and you do them and you put your ear right close, you actually sort of hear a and I can't help it. It's so funny. But this whole thing is so ridiculous. They're taking dildos so seriously in this paper. They are not serious, okay? Like we're supposed to and have a sense of humor, and I'm still laughing. Hey, the flesh. Okay, okay, we're gonna be equal opportunity here. The fleshlight with the labia you can tie in a knot. It could double duty because you could store things in it and use it as a purse on picnics. That would be amazing. That would, or no, tissues. And that would be like Inception because you put the tissues in it. It's like a tissue dispenser and they're right there when you need them. It's modular. It's the Swiss Army badge. It's, I'm going to make this now. I'm going to make $1 million.
Yep.
It'll be fabulous.
Okay, right. Guys, we're stream is over. We're starting a Kickstarter.
Yes.
Let's do this.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Oh, God. It'd be so efficient, though, because the Kleenex would fit right into it, and you could whoop them out. Oh my God! Okay, no, this is all I can think of now. Okay, I'm retracting from the silly place and the fleshlight, the fleshlight picnic basket. Okay. But here we get to more silly places. Oh my gosh, participation in sex toy parties where women get together in the intimate setting of a friend's home and get to learn about yes, and get to learn about how to enliven their sex lives can also be a way of empowerment for some women. Macaulay. No, deal. No. If I told you the reality of what went on in these things, you would go up on a mountain and be like, fuck all of y'all. It's not sexy. It would ruin your sex. It would ruin your sex brain. So it's not sexy. Because the people at the sex toy parties are never the people you want to envision using these things. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Participation in sex toy parties where women get together in the intimate. Okay. But since I know you have an interest in this, I'm gonna participation in sex toy parties where women get together in the intimate setting of a friend's home and get to learn about how to enliven their sex lives can also be a way of empowerment for some women who may otherwise find it difficult to articulate and express their sexuality. I can't keep going with the voice. Okay. Creating safe spaces to talk about sex toys, ask questions, and share their desires with others can also be a way for some women to talk about sex in affirmative ways and reclaiming their own sexuality. Although the use of sex toys, including dildos, is considered to be a signifier of increasing capitalism and commodification within feminism, the dildo offers opportunities for some women to bond together and be able to explore, articulate, and express their own sexuality. I'm trying so hard. In these situations, I think it is difficult to posit dildos as either oppressive or liberating. They offer multiple possibilities, with different women viewing dildos in varied ways. It really depends on your angle. Some of which, and how close to them you are. Exactly. Some of which are oppressive and others liberatory. They offer different possibilities to the same woman at different points of time. Oh, sex toy parties. Oh, the double standard.
This has been loads of paragraphs to say fucking nothing. You might as well have just had the sentence that says different strokes for different folks.
Yes. But the one thing that did come out of this for me is I got this mental picture of a male sex toy party. Okay, so a bunch of guys sitting around with like fleshlights and lubes, sitting around and going, yeah, I don't like the battery life on that one, and but this one, and I had this horrible, oh my God, I had this horrible thing come into my head. This is how my brain works, of the host of the party going, well, we just got this new Asian model in, and see, it has a little button on the side, right? And at the right time, you can just push the button, and it goes, because that's like Asian porn, and that's all that came in my head, because they make the noise. They make the noise. It's the Asian model, and then I'm like, I'm going to hell, aren't I? So,
yep.
But we don't. But on a serious note, why don't we have things like this for men.
Because it would just turn into a series of jokes like that.
Well, so do the female ones, but more than that, I think, because as a woman, you can say it's you can say I'm going to a sex toy party this weekend, even if you're at work, and the reaction you'll get is, "Oh, that sounds interesting." But if you're a guy, and you were to say, "Yeah, I'm going to a porn trade session where we trade our old magazines,"
Yep.
you would be looked at like
all of that fucking side eye. Just everything.
Yeah, because it is disgusting when men have sexual desires. It's disgusting. Like, but it's fine when women do it because we're cute, right?
Yep.
It's just cute when we want to fuck things and stick things in our dirty places.
Yep.
But if men want to do it, you're an asshole.
Well, that's just it. It's not even if men want to just use random toys. If men are just interested in women, well, you're just filthy, disgusting, depraved perverts. But if women are interested in just lubing up any old random household object and just trying to destroy it, then
yes.
that's fine. You're liberated, so that's totally cool.
It's true because you're just liberated, doing the same thing that women have been doing for a really, really long time. And just not normally talking about it this much. But I still think someone needs to make the male sex toy skit happen, where they have like the full real doll and he's kicking her tires like a car. Like going, I don't know if I like the mileage on this one. What's the odometer reading? It's true. It would be so good. Okay. But it would be vilified. It would be like, that's horrible.
It would, because it would inevitably become look, this is just encouraging the men to treat the women like the objects and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. And female sex parties are actually, they're super, super boring. And the other thing is a lot of times they sell really inferior products, and that's what irritates me. So, but anyway, moving on. So we've gone through how women explore their bodies in the intimate setting of their friends' homes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm sure there's sex toy party porn out there, and then like a real dude shows up and they're all like, oh, can you use this on me? And it goes from there. So
I guarantee it.
But let's kill our erections and go back to feminism. That feminist thought offered such varied opportunities for my encounter with the same dildo.
Mm-hmm.
My encounter, proved. I'm just imagining her encountering the dildo.
How does that go? So you just walk into a bar and there's just the same one sitting at the stool next to you, and you're like,
exactly.
Oh, so
why didn't you call me back? And he's like, I was busy. I'm seeing it in my head now. No, this is not good. Proved to be much less restrictive and even fun. The encounter was fun. It presented newer possibilities of looking at the dildo. And now it's personified in my head. Thank you, paper. He's in a trench coat and a fedora. Like Sam Spade. My mental dildo is Sam Spade. And all the psych people listening to this are like, that tells me so much about Bunny. So while some women may find the dildo restrictive and oppressive, it could also be used as an opportunity to transform and challenge traditional patriarchal hierarchical relationships. Having been exposed to queer theory through my academic background, as well as through my work with sexual rights organizations in India, I also wanted to explore more in terms of how queer theory looks at the dildo. In the next section, I critically discuss the dildo from a queer perspective. And this is the only part of the section that really talks about men at all. So perhaps because you speak for all men, this would be best for you. Obvious, and all deer, and all
absolutely
deer of color.
Of course. I am a triple threat.
Well, that's why everyone's here. It's not for me. It's for you. I'm just the blackboard for you to write things on me with your antlers.
It would not be my antlers that I would use to write things. Just saying.
Oh, it suddenly got warm in here, and all
yes,
the chat is like, but you wanted us to stop shipping you. Why do you say that? Why do you bait us?
Because teasing the chat is so much fun.
It's true. But they tease us back though. So
exactly. So it's hilarious.
It's the beds.
It's a big circle jerk of teasing.
It is. So tell me about your queer self, Phil.
Yes. The dildo and the queer me. which is also actually available on DVD.
But
Available
this
from
title,
my Amazon affiliate links if anyone is interested.
I definitely think we're going to see this paper show up on Queer Kids Stuff, especially with the masturbation with teddy bears thing that you referenced earlier. Poor Teddy.
Yes.
I think the dildo and the queer me, I definitely think this is some material for Queer Kids Stuff with Teddy right there.
I wouldn't be surprised if, not necessarily maybe the paper as a whole, but just if some of these names just came up in something like that, it wouldn't surprise me, actually, at all.
Exactly. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, my brain is writing the episode. Stop. You need to talk. Come on. You need to give me something else to focus on. Because I don't like imagining her in any sexual situations. It's changing my Kinsey scale. So please continue.
Oh dear. No, I'm going to bring you back to being the right way. I'm going to make you right. I'm going to fix you with my oppression.
It's true. Are you going to coerce me?
I am. I'm going to coerce you very hard.
I have always had a fantasy of being oppressed by a teal-colored deer with a nice rock. Wait, it's true. Coerce me hard. Okay, please. Okay. I'm out of the silly place. I'm good. You go.
You're being a very bad girl, Bunny.
I'm always a very bad girl. This is why your fans can only take me on here like once every few months, right?
Yes.
So,
coincidentally, that's about the same frequency I can handle as well. It's just too good.
Fair point. So, but I need to know about your queer self.
Yes, okay. Back to the serious place. Oh dear. Queer as a term and as a theoretical concept remains abstract and amorphous. Queer theory offers a point of view different from viewing the dildo as a phallic object and therefore a tool of oppression. Some queer theorists have accused feminists for politicizing the sex act and taking out fun and pleasure from this realm. I think they may be correct.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Queer women have constructed the dildo as campier, fun, and subversive. We're less likely to attach masculine parameters to the dildo, and we're less likely to consider it as a threat to their partners. So, are you saying that a good dicking can make a lesbian straight? Is that their fear? It's actually a thing, apparently.
Well, I actually think the point being made is that, and this gets back to you men and how insecure you all are, that because earlier in this article, it referenced how heterosexual women are afraid to bring sex toys into their relationship because it will make their partners feel bad. But queer women, of course, are superior and don't care. That's
absolutely, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
This view looks at the dildo more as a device that aids sexual activity between and among people and enhances pleasure. Within this view, dildo helps penetrative sex without having to be dependent on a man. It could also be viewed...
just a representation of part of a man. Sorry, go on.
It could also be viewed as a veritable tool that has the potential to transform additional patriarchal and hierarchical relationships. Because, of course... The
transformative power of the dildo, it will change your life.
It really will. Completely and utterly. It's going Optimus Prime up in here.
Scientology. Oh, God. No. Okay, continue. My brain now is going on with the dildo Scientology. That'll be fabulous.
Absolutely.
But, I can name two people who would be in total favor of it being introduced. Tom Cruise and John Travolta. So, please continue.
The dildo helps individuals to have more agency and not be dependent on a partner for one's sexual pleasure. An individual can have sex with it at one's own pace and will. Sounds a bit rapey. Some queer feminists would argue that even if the dildo looks like a penis, it is not quite like one. Unlike a penis, it does not get flaccid and is not sensitive like a penis. Additionally, dildos can be bought in different sizes, shapes, textures, colours, and may even glow in the dark. And unlike a penis, dildos do not suffer from impotence or premature ejaculation. Many dildos do not even resemble a penis in their shape and form. Clearly, you've never used one of those ones which have the fluid chamber. Those ones, they can be premature.
Yeah,
That's your
if
fault,
they've got a
though.
faulty lock valve,
Mm.
So, I mean, hypothetically, I hear. Go on.
Mm. Dildos have queered the notion of sexuality in a variety of ways. They enable people, including women, to explore and respond to their own sexuality. In a society where articulation of sexuality is taboo for women, the dildo presents newer possibilities for them. Through participation in sex toy parties, as discussed
Exactly.
previously, women can claim spaces, phrasing for articulation of their own desires and needs. Acknowledging their own desires is a necessary first step before addressing these to themselves or their partners, whether in heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, or pansexual relationships, whether or not these relationships are monogamous, married, or enjoy social sanction.
Okay, can I stop you for a second? I have a couple notes.
Okay.
So first, at the part in a society where articulation of sexuality is taboo for women. Which society are you talking about? Because it's not the one I live in.
Yeah.
I think Madonna pretty much killed that ages ago. I think it's been actually killed for a lot longer than that, if you really get into the history of women expressing their sexuality and not really having any consequences for it anymore. I think the pendulum has actually swung a little too far. There are people I wish would put more clothes on, not because I don't find them attractive or anything, but to me, the pushing of overt sexuality sometimes becomes distracting, and I want to kind of pay attention to other things they may be doing. I'm talking people like singers, right?
Mm.
Like if I can't enjoy you unless I'm looking at you, maybe you're not a musician. That's kind of looking at you, Ariana Grande.
Well, this
Just
is the
saying.
point. It's become sort of a distraction thing. It's kind of like people are going to buy your shit not actually because of your skill.
Now, mind you, they're still going to make a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
So I gotta give them props for that. But I am I'm all for people expressing sexuality. I mean, for God's sake, pot kettle black. I live in a glass house, don't I? Because we do shows like this, right?
Absolutely.
But this isn't all I do, and it isn't something that I'm trying to aggressively sell necessarily. I don't think you can say, and the point I'm trying to make is I don't think you can say that women expressing sexuality is still taboo in our society. I'm
Well,
like, no,
that's the thing. This is our society. I'm still of the mind that this woman is talking predominantly about India, where they do still seem to have. I think India is basically more like sort of what the West was about 40, 50 years ago, where it was kind of like still everyone was doing it, but just no one was talking about it.
I confess ignorance on this, and I said that earlier. I'm like, I don't know what it's like there. So, but I can say here, I don't think there's a taboo on expressing your sexuality anymore. So, and in the previous paragraph, this is one thing I found, and I'm going to get a bit serious for a second here.
Perfect.
But in the paragraph that begins, the dildo helps individuals to have more agency, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is basically a laundry list of reasons why dildos are better than men. And were we to write this, as in why fleshlights are better than women, so the fleshlight helps individuals to have more agency and not be dependent on a partner for one's sexual pleasure. An individual can have sex with it at one's own pace and will. Some queer feminists would argue that even if the fleshlight looks like a vagina, it is not quite like one. Unlike a vagina, it does not get smelly, is not sensitive like a vagina. Additionally, fleshlights can be bought in different sizes, shapes, textures, colors, and may even glow in the dark. And unlike a vagina, dildos do not suffer from PMD or lack of sexual satisfaction that they will complain about forever. Many fleshlights do not even resemble a vagina in their shape and form. Could I write that and have that published?
I'm pretty sure you're a raging misogynist.
Yes.
That's all I heard. Just a string of extreme bigotry.
Totally. But I'm such a shitlord.
Absolutely.
But that's what really struck me with that paragraph, that you could not argue that a synthetic vagina was better than a woman.
No, you couldn't. It would just be like political suicide or career suicide, especially if you tried to write it.
Yeah. I'd be lynched like the final scene of Frankenstein with the windmill and the.
Yeah.
It would be. I would have my head on a pike if I wrote that.
Yeah.
But this is fine, guys. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say about that, because that really struck me.
Yeah.
That it could not be reversed.
Yeah. Actually, interestingly enough, reversing it put me in mind of a product, actually a Fleshlight product, which came under some heat a while ago, and it was the
Asian one that made the noise.
No, but it was one. It was the small hymen pop one, and it was made specifically to be very small, and its entire selling point was like, oh, it's like a young virgin sort of thing, and all the women were just like, all the feminists came out and were like, oh, encouraging pedophilia, blah 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 blah, and I just sort of looked and thought, well, this just seems like a creative marketing way of telling you the size, like, rather than saying, do you have a needle dick that's really unfortunate?
Yes.
Buy this one, because this one will fit you. Like, in the same way that, you know, you wouldn't advertise an extra large dildo to a woman as saying, hey, does your fanny resemble a ripped out fireplace? Take this! Boom!
Bulldog eating custard. There
exactly. It's, you know, if it's just one of those creative marketing things, but people got all up in a fucking tizzy about it because, well, men are all rapist pedophiles or something, apparently.
Well, we already know you're lewd and lecherous.
Absolutely.
That's why we need men, because men are lewd and lecherous. Wait, but we don't need men. So
but we need dildos, but they remind us of men. But oh god, I'm so conflicted.
Exactly. And this is the whole paper. It's so conflicted. But anyway, those are the only 2 points I wanted to make. So please continue. In sexual relationships among women, tell me more.
Okay. In sexual relationships with women, the dildo expands the possibilities of penetrative sex. For example, the use of a double dildo could help women in sexual relationships with women to penetrate and be penetrated at the same time and achieve vaginal orgasms if they so desired. But
wait, vaginal orgasms?
They don't exist.
What?
Right?
Wait, I'm so confused. I gotta flip back. What did she say earlier?
Yeah.
Vaginal orgasms are bad, guys. Okay, continue.
According to general perception, certain strap-on dildos may be assumed to have been created especially to enhance pleasure in sexual relationships among women. The harness or the strap on such dildos is sometimes designed to feel like a woman's crotch, being fleshy as well as dark. We're almost touching black anality there.
I was just thinking
so
that.
Close.
But I think she's actually referring to pubes.
Very possibly.
But I like the black anality version better, because it's like having a second ghetto. You've got the ghetto in the back and the ghetto in the front.
Yeah, and that is a whole other use for your double-ended dildos.
Yes.
You can hit all of the bases.
Oh, phrasing. I'm sorry. Okay, go on.
The dildo thus enhances fluidity phrasing by allowing sexual partners to assume different roles, including playing with domination and submission. Okay, here we're talking about strap-on things again, and again, this domination submission thing, it's gone back to this sex is a power play, penetrate or penetratee, necessary roles, there is no possible other way of interpreting it, and I fucking hate that. But they keep going with that narrative.
There are an awful lot of guys that really want to be pegged, and it has nothing to do with a power fantasy. And everything to do with anatomy. So, yeah.
But, you know, anatomy don't real, because that would require science.
Yes, science doesn't exist. Although, prophetically speaking, it's quickly becoming non-existent. So
yeah, well, at this rate,
it's only a matter of time before physics falls. I'm telling you.
Yep. And just to remind everyone, we are talking about double-ended dildos and strap-ons here. This was a peer-reviewed academic paper.
Yep, this is serious business.
Yep.
It is, and she is a queer woman of color, so you know it's true.
Yep, it's a very robust feminist argument.
Yes. We have to treat it with the dignity it deserves, and I think we have. So.
Yep. Robust feminist argument. That is a fantastic nickname for your dildo.
Oh my god. I'm gonna. Oh no. No. You've tempted me so much now. I'm gonna get a Sharpie. Oh no. No, the pictures on Twitter will haunt me the rest of my life. I must resist. Okay, go.
Strap-on dildos are also used by heterosexual people in their sexual relationships. Certain strap-on dildos for men are designed for double penetration. Dildos are also used by people of varied sexualities in relationships with different genders, including homosexual relationships among women and men.
Finally, men are mentioned.
Yay! But men need to use strap-ons in homosexual relationships because they lack the equipment natively? Or something?
Well, or something. Like I said, gay men know nothing about penetration.
Nope.
They know nothing. Nope. So there's no point in including them in a study that is explicitly on queer theory. I mean, what were we thinking that gay men would be included here somewhere?
Yeah, they're just not queer enough. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Dildos also aid transgender and transsexual people in facilitating penetrative sex with their partners. Because, again, transgendered and transsexual people can't natively do that, because none of them have penises. Dildos have also been known to be used as dilators for transsexual people and intersex people in reconstructive surgeries. Dilators in different sizes are used after genital surgeries to help in the creation of vaginas. Thus, the multiple ways in which the dildo performs complicates the notion of sexual and gender binaries of the penetrator versus the penetrated, the active versus the passive, the dominant versus the submissive, and the masculine versus the feminine. I despise, again, how they've done masculine is all of the, masculine, penetrator, active, dominant, feminine, passive, submissive. It's, no, please stop doing this. You should know better by now, but clearly you don't.
And she's already complained about the stereotype of Indian women being required to be passive and submissive. So then why reinforce it now?
Yeah.
If it's so awful, then don't reinforce it. And show me why it's not.
Yeah.
Like in your paper, show me why this is not true.
I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it objectively, because this woman fucking won't, apparently. I'm going to go back again to one of those studies which I was talking about, and we're going to talk about orgasms, those things that feminists apparently can't have because they don't know how their own bodies work. Female orgasms. Again, I'm going back to this healthystrokes.com thing which I was looking at. All of the different positions. Had orgasm position, missionary position, 70% of women. Rear entry, as they term it, 59%. Sitting, 45%. Standing, 29%. Other, 42%. Woman superior, 77%. As a woman, you are more likely to have an orgasm if you are being in the dominant position on top when having sex. So get to it, ladies.
Yes, of course
be
you are,
in full control of what you're doing.
You can control exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And it also, unsurprisingly, then had the lowest non-orgasm rate. So, and apparently 4% of women have no experience in the woman's superior position. I feel sorry for them.
Really?
Yeah. 4% of the women who respond to this. 3% have never experienced missionary. That one I find even more unusual. But,
wow,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, maybe the back seat of the car just doesn't accommodate it.
Yeah, maybe.
Depends how old you are and your living situation. But no, I completely agree with you. The whole that women are completely submissive.
Yeah.
And I said that earlier. I'm like, no, women are not the passive receptacles.
Yeah, and they don't have to be, and it works to their detriment to be so.
So
why do they do this? There is objective data. I have added objective data to this study and just been like, nope, you're wrong. When are they going to do this? Never, because it breaks their narrative.
Oh, they don't have to, is the problem, is their feet aren't being held to the fire. Which is why doing things like this and real peer review and all the other things that are going through these studies and going, yeah, no, maybe not so much. It is useful, right? I mean, is it going to have a huge, massive reach into academia? No, right? But what it can do is provide a counterpoint to it. So when people are questioning what they're being taught in academia, then it's like, oh, there is another way to look at this.
In a
And
2-hour-long euphemism-laden live stream
exactly.
somewhere
2
on
hour
the
lo-
internet.
but it does help people. And you probably hear from a lot of people in academia that go, I knew there was something wrong, and it wasn't until I watched your videos that I could put my finger on it. I mean, you hear from people who this stuff actually does help. So
Yeah, so that is nice.
because you start to think you're crazy after a while. When this studies like this, articles like this are the only thing that you're presented with day in and day out, and you're reading them and going, this is horseshit. You can start to think, is it me? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Like, why? Because all of these people and all these citations and all these people with all these letter after the name who are clearly way smarter than me think this. So maybe it's
And
just
it's
me.
never questioned.
So that's why I think that the things like this are useful. I mean, even though it is about the queer you and the feminist me and the dildo, which sounds like an 80s sitcom.
Yes.
It's a queer you and a feminist me and the dildo. It's I can see it, scene opens on a Cosby style living room.
I'm down with this. This sounds like fun.
You're reading a newspaper. I'm dusting things, being, my oppressive shitlord self, going, no, I like dusting, fuck off. I have internalized misogyny. Dildo comes in, takes off his trench coat. Oh, I had such a hard day of work. Sewer's backed up. Ba-dum-ba. Audience laughs. No, okay, no. Sorry, we can do this.
We view the anus as rich and full.
Yeah, I had to go deep into the ghetto today.
Smith has discussed Diana Cooper's relational model of power by acknowledging neither domination nor submission to be total, and the possibility of being powerful and powerless at the same time because of the multiple subjective positions of the individuals. Discourses on sexuality often posit the penetrator as the active, and therefore the more powerful one. The use of a dildo in heterosexual sex by a woman on a man for anal penetration could reverse the discourse altogether and offer new possibilities. It's not a power play, ladies, but I hate to go all anatomy on you, so I'm not going to. Pornographic films such as Bend Over Boyfriend 2, More Rockin', Less Talking, which I'm sure this person researched very thoroughly, illustrate the reversal of sex roles among genders by presenting women with strap-on dildos as penetrating passive men. B.O.B. 2 was the second film in the B.O.B. series, and this particular film focused on heterosexual couples. Although pornographic films could hardly be considered to be presenting ground-level realities through research, their high consumption by masses does indicate their influence on or through people's realities. People have used and continue to use dildos in a wide variety of ways. People with certain disabilities have used dildos to experience penetrative sex for pleasure and gratification. People with disabilities, often due to the nature of their disabilities, may not have sexual opportunities available to them without the use of external devices. Moreover, people with disabilities often face significant challenges in finding, meeting, and building relationships with sexual and/or intimate partners, both due to the prejudice they face, as well as curtailed opportunities due to limited mobility and accessibility to services. Given these challenges, their opportunities for sexual gratification may also be limited. In the absence of sexual partners, people with disabilities may often need to resort to sex toys, or may even opt for assisted sex. Opportunities for assisted sex are, however, limited to a few countries where governments recognize and respond to sexual desires among people with disabilities. In countries such as India, sexuality of people with disabilities is hardly recognized and finds very little support through the national and state-level laws and policies. Women with disabilities face additional challenges with respect to accessing opportunities for sexual satisfaction because of the double discrimination they face with respect to their gender and their disability. Further, they are often considered childlike and therefore asexual. Despite these misconceptions, there have been a number of media-reported cases of sexual assault and rape on women with disabilities in India. In addition to popular misconceptions of people with disabilities being either asexual or hypersexual, people with disabilities face additional challenges with accessing their right to privacy and their right to bodily integrity. Dildos provide people with disabilities another way of pleasuring themselves. It must be acknowledged, however, that self-pleasuring is neither a substitute for sexual relationships with others, nor is it inferior to the latter. Prevalent stereotypical assumptions of asexuality or hypersexuality of people with disabilities often influence ideas about people with disabilities and their sexuality. Such notions also differ in terms of the gender of the person with disabilities. For example, while expression of sexuality may be considered okay for men with disabilities, it is considered taboo for people with disabilities who do not conform to a masculine gender identity. Similarly, the visibility of a disability may also influence such societal notions. Society may be more tolerant or accepting of the expression of sexuality by people with disabilities if the form of disability is less or invisible. While my friend Matilda had a disability, it was not immediately visible to others. She could lip read well, and strangers would often not notice her hearing impairment unless they spoke in a language Matilda was unfamiliar with. Therefore, Matilda's disability could have gone easily unnoticed during our Palika Bazaar trip. I wondered about the stereotypes and assumptions people around us may have had she had a visible disability. What notions would people draw about Matilda being a white woman with a disability looking for a dildo, along with her male partner? Okay, well, we've done the bit about disabilities. I
Yeah.
think, can we talk
And
about that before we go on to the disease?
the disease. I actually think the part about disabilities was one of the better parts of the paper overall.
Yes.
There's nothing really that I had a huge problem with, actually, and I think it's a good thing to think about. So yeah, and something that so I have no problem with that. But the end, what notions would people draw about Matilda being a white woman with a disability looking for a dildo along with, we're getting back into, but what will people think?
Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah, my note for that is, you don't know, you can't know, and it's irrelevant unless or until you have a real consequence. So stop fucking worrying about it, you insecure harridan. Like, that's actually my note, because and she's I use the word harridan because she's making herself crazy. It's like she's nagging herself about.
She really is.
Yes, and there's so much language in this, and I don't know the author. I actually don't research the authors because I want to focus on what they've said and not necessarily on them as a person, because I don't care who they are as a person. But I will say there's a lot of, like, I feel shame and I'm so worried about what people will think, and I'm like, you gotta go easier on yourself here. Like, it's not a big deal. It's a cock. It's a cock. It's not. Yeah. So just maybe stop worrying yourself into an early grave. All I'm saying.
Don't worry about it. Just take it.
Yeah, exactly. Just bite the pillow.
Yep.
Stop thinking about it. Shut off your brain.
Yep. Just enjoy.
Have a glass of wine. Just go with it. Enjoy it. You will feel better after.
Yep.
So
while I do actually think this disabilities, a couple of paragraphs, was actually for the most part, I would say, pretty damn good. It does bring up a lot of questions about, like, people with disabilities, especially like physical ones and mental ones. Yeah, they do have problems with forming relationships, especially sexual ones, because it can sometimes be really quite hampering. But I find the part where they're like, oh, it's fine for men with disabilities to express sexuality, but it's not for women. It's like, I've seen a lot more women with disabilities and a lot more extreme disabilities still in relationships, whereas for men, you're less likely to see a man with an extreme disability in a relationship.
That's interesting. I've never really thought about it, and I'll have to chew on that and see how it stacks up with my experience. But I mean, it's just you've made a good point. I need to think about it a bit.
It's just thinking about just even I suppose it's probably just sort of more anecdotal, because there's only so many people you see with, like, deformities or things like that. But, I've seen women with, like, missing fingers, missing arms, missing legs, in wheelchairs, with boyfriends who are, quite happy with them, and heard about them on the internet as well.
Yeah.
That you'll hear a lot of like paraplegic women just like, oh yeah, me and my husband, me and my boyfriend, and they're people who they met while they had the disability.
I
But
know.
the
Yeah,
numbers
you got
of
me thinking
guys
about
that
it.
I've seen in that, I can't think of one at all that I've seen. I've seen literally one thing, and it was a photo of an American Marine who got very burnt on his wedding day. And the woman just looks absolutely dead inside standing next to him, and I have to wonder how long their relationship lasted. Um, but that's the only example that I could find, and looking at that photo, just looking at her facial expression, it's kind of like, you're only doing this because you don't want to be seen as a dick for leaving him
Yeah,
because of
exactly. You
this.
don't. Yeah, because everyone will hate you forever if you do
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So
especially since it was, like an injury of war as well.
yeah, which puts the added, but he's a warrior, he's a vet, and then you get that, which is, and I have anyone who's heard me before knows that I have nothing but respect for the forces and for service members and for vets, but I do see some of that guilt coming out sometimes, and I will say for me, and this is an interesting question too, not to get personal, but if you were not that you ever will, but well, I mean, I can't say not that you ever will, but not that it is likely, given that you've made a couple of MGTOW mumblings. If you ever were to get married and something hideously transformative happened to you right beforehand, would you hate someone who ended things with you?
Um, it would definitely be a kind of what the fuck.
Yeah.
If it was something that was kind of like really debilitating to the point where you became like sort of reliant on them to do things for you, I would
Yeah.
find it more understanding, because it's kind of like, okay, look, this is a burden that was not in within the original parameter of the
Yeah, you didn't
relationship.
sign up for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that I could kind of understand. But if it was just something that didn't really impair you, like, I don't know, acid on the face, but your eyes still functioned, like you could still eat, smell, see, and all of
Hmm.
that stuff, it was purely cosmetic, then I'd be a bit like, what the fuck? It's like, are you
Yeah.
are you with this for me, or is this really that much of a game break? Again, it's kind of a bit awkward because it's sort of, you didn't sign up for this at the beginning, but so you could kind of understand it. And I think it's the degree of what happened, the degree of the impairment would be a big factor.
I tend to agree. I would, this is just for me personally, I would draw the line at like having to wipe my ass. If I would never ever want my partner to have to do that for me. So that would be I would understand. Like if I was that and I couldn't, if I was that hindered, yeah,
Mm,
and it wasn't something, because people have their own reactions, especially to visceral bodily fluid type stuff, right?
yeah,
And I totally get that. So I would not hate someone who said, I can't see you shit in a bag.
yeah,
I can't do it. I can't do it. Um, However, some people would be okay with that. But if they chose to say, I just can't, I can't, I wouldn't hate them. I'd be sad, but I wouldn't like think they're a dick or anything. I'd
yeah,
just be like, yeah, everybody has a line, right?
yeah.
So,
You,
but it
you'd
is an
hope you'd
interesting.
hope that after a sort of lengthy relationship, that line would go higher, but there is only so much you can hope
Yep.
for.
So I think it's quite tricky. Or like when you get into people who slide into serious mental illness, what do you do, right? Like
Mm,
and especially if they won't stay on their meds. Do you, and this happens a lot with men and women where the women won't stay on their meds and life is just hell for the guys. So what do you do? Do you stick it out because you love them, or do you go, you're not helping yourself and I can't, you know? So it's an interesting thing to talk about in terms of disability and where people's lines are. It's not very black and white for me. I tend to, sorry, my tummy's rumbling. I tend to have, I try to have quite a bit of compassion for people who can't handle this kind of stuff. Um, and that might come from nursing, because I know there are a lot of families that can't handle seeing someone they love in a great deal of pain or in a great deal of distress. So it's trying to get everybody on board and everybody looking after themselves. And yeah, so it's just interesting thought experiment where people's lines are, right?
yeah,
It would, I, for me, I, for me to leave someone I was in, I'm kind of a ride or die chick, right? So for me, if I'm committed to someone and I'm in a relationship, it would have to be they are a literal threat.
mm,
So because physical stuff is I'm frankly kind of blasé about. I'm like, meh. You know, I've cleaned up so much shit and vomit in my life. I'm like, I don't even care. It's fine. So, but if they endangered me or something, like a serious drug addiction that they just wouldn't change and they were a threat to me, yeah, I would probably go, you know, I can't do it, brah. So, but yeah, anyway, so we've gotten off on relationship tangent,
Yeah,
but
well, it's an interesting
it is relevant, and it is relevant to the disability stuff in
Yes.
this. And I think, you know, I've talked with this about my female friends quite a bit, because I like being a bit of a shit disturber and posing these hard questions. So when they bitch about stuff like, men who they criticize their wives for gaining too much weight or something like that, and they want them to be healthier, and I just think that's terrible. And or they criticize their wives for not being interested in sex anymore. And I said, well, if your husband lost the use of his cock tomorrow, would you stay with him?
Mm-hmm.
And the vast majority said no. And I'm like, well, then I
Yep.
guess everybody has a line, don't they?
Yep.
So everybody has a line, and your shit stinks as much as anybody else's. So if that's his line, that's his line, but you've got your line. It wouldn't, and ironically, being as sex positive and sex toy versed as I am, that actually wouldn't bother me very much. I'm like, meh, all right. I mean, I'm sorry for you. I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to work it out, so am I. But not everybody is. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
One thing which I do sort of take a bit of issue with on this paper is there seems to be a kind of insinuation that there's like this sort of human right to a sexual relationship. Like I'm
that's
just
chewy.
Yeah, I'm just kind of getting that vibe from it. You know, they're talking about like how, you know, healthcare and governments, you know, sort of should try and facilitate it. And it's like, if you're going down this, you know, sex is a right. Because I have seen articles coming on feminist things like that, saying, you know, like women have a right to a, you know, satisfying sex lives and things like that
Yes,
in
yeah,
the
I've
sex
seen
positivity.
those.
It's kind of like, if you're trying to say that sex is a human right, do you really want to start opening that can of worms when you're so big on rape?
That is very interesting.
Involuntary celibacy is a thing. You know, people who can't get into relationships, as this paper has been talking about, and I agree, there are people for whom, despite all of their efforts, just cannot land a relationship with someone or anyone. It's kind of like, okay, if you want to talk about then is sexuality a human right, does that person then have the right to go and rape someone? Because, you know, if they've got a right to have sex, you know.
But that's the line of thinking that's getting us into the whole pedophilia is a legitimate erotic attraction thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not a sign that something is perhaps not working for you. And I mean, I don't mean hebephilia, right? I mean, I find that interesting, right, with all the Onesian stuff and girls that would be too young for my comfort level if they were my daughter or sister or something.
Yeah.
And more to the point, what the fuck are you doing posting naked pictures of yourself on the internet? You are so punished. But I'm talking little kids.
Yeah.
And as a legitimate sexual choice. And where does that come from? So no, you're exactly right. But this is when you don't have any kind of objective standard, you're going to make it say exactly what you want it to say. Wow, that's an interesting thing. I'm going to have to chew on that a bit.
Yeah, it's something that I've thought about, especially just since I have seen feminists writing about things like, you know, sex as sort of a human right, or like having a satisfying sex and things like that. And again, when you're talking about like things like this disability and you're having to sort of help people with disabilities with sexuality, it's kind of like, you know, are you trying to say that this is a right people have or not? Because I would say no, because it requires the consent of someone else, and you can't force someone else to do something that they don't want to just for someone else's right.
I usually only see that. You've got me thinking about it now, so I've processed. I usually only see that argument on abortion debates with anyone who wants to limit or regulate abortion is trying to prevent women's sexuality. In fact, that just popped up on my Twitter today, that if you're pro-life, you must hate sex. It was satirical, but I've heard that argument seriously many times. And instead of looking at it as, no, I just think there are better ways to express your sexuality that do not involve all of this this consequence that is predictable and avoidable. And if you're not taking any of these precautions, then yeah. So yeah, I have heard that argument that women are entitled to a totally satisfying sex life with no consequences.
Yep. And you know,
Yeah,
if you
so I
want to
have seen
start
that.
going down the sort of it's a human right thing, and then you have to start getting governments involved. I mean, are we going to start seeing, like, you know, subsidized prostitution as a thing? All the
Interesting.
interesting and weird places that we could go, because you know,
Yes.
as this thing has said, you know, and is quite correct,
It's, you're getting yeah, you're
there
getting a
are
bit Firefly up
hospitals.
in here.
Yeah, yeah, but there are like some hospitals and shit, you know, where they do have nurses who are basically like paid to jack off their patients every so often, because you know
It's
they
a practice that has been discontinued here in Canada. So
you know, so
yeah,
it's kind of like, well, if they were going to do that, because you know it's sort of like, well, you know, you've got a right to it and you can't do it yourself, and all your other bodily functions are taken care of, why draw the line, you know? It's an interesting big gray area, but I think we should probably continue onwards talking
yeah,
about
no, because we could,
HIV and
because this is
AIDS.
no, but this is yeah. Let's go to AIDS. AIDS.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. We've already given everyone cancer. Let's go to AIDS. But
Absolutely.
no, but you have made such a good point though, and you've got my mind going off on that tangent because there is this weird sense now that sex is something you are entitled to. And I got to thinking about it. It is people know it is possible to go without sex and you won't die, right? Like
Yeah.
it's people, but I wonder if people know that sometimes. I mean, it's not pleasant necessarily, and
No.
but you won't like die literally. You'll it's just gonna suck. But anyway, yeah, go on, go on, go on.
Yep. So, in the past few
AIDS.
decades, there have been a global panic on the incidence of HIV and AIDS. Various governments, along with non-profit organizations working on HIV and AIDS, have been laying greater emphasis on safer sex practices. The incidence of the infection has spread sexual panic amongst people, giving rise to anxieties relating to contracting the infection. This panic is further augmented by fear-orientated public media messages. In such an environment, the dildo presents the possibility of catering to people who may have a safer sex fetish. It allows for the possibility of people living with HIV to continue with safer sexual practices along with their partners, with reduced risks of infection to their partners.
PSA, just because I used to teach safer sex stuff, many people do not know how to properly clean their toys. So just approach with caution, learn what you need to use for different pathogens, and play safe, kids. Okay, go ahead.
The dildo thus disrupts and subverts identity categories of gender and sexuality. The presence of a dildo not only signifies that it is separate from the penis, and thus separate from the male body, and that sexual pleasure may be separate from the sexual identity of the person. It is interesting that although dildos and sex toys are used by women of varied sexual identities and orientations, heterosexual women are not interrogated as strictly with regard to the use of dildos as phallic objects as compared to lesbian women.
And suddenly the trench coat and fedora makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Interrogated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
oh, come on. You know that this isn't like a serious thing. It's just two lesbian women. They have a dildo, and you're kind of like, that's basically a dick, right? I mean, yeah.
exactly, exactly.
They're not doing it serious. It's just kind of like, you're basically using a penis here. So what's wrong with the real thing? Whatever.
Well, and that's the question, because of course lesbian women are going to be asked more questions about dildos because
It relates to the thing they're not
it relates
attracted
to
to.
exactly.
It's like gay men using a fleshlight. You're going to be like, but you don't like the why do you have the vagina? What?
Oh wait, you can get the bum ones.
Yeah, you can get
See?
like anal ones and mouth ones, but if a gay guy had a vaginal fleshlight, you'd be kind of like, what?
Maybe it's like Milo Yiannopoulos and they have to be blonde and it's only once a year. So that's a rare tidbit from his interviews.
Yep.
There you go.
All right, on we go. On the other hand, phrasing. It is also possible that heterosexual women looking for a dildo could be subjected to a different gaze. A gaze that questions her sexual relationship status and her sexual satisfaction within her current relationships. I contemplated if these were some of the questions that would cross people's minds had the visit to Palika Bazaar materialized that day. You didn't even go on the trip then, and
No.
so you
Spent all
were
day
you were
thinking about what would
sitting
happen.
in your house having a fucking panic attack, getting triggered about what maybe people might be thinking about you, and you didn't even do it.
Yes, exactly. They didn't even do it. They even lined up a man to do
Yep.
it with them. Oh my god.
It's like, there was all that build up and no release. This might be why you have such an unhealthy life, my dear.
And have written so many papers on this, or like so many pages. Oh, because you're thinking about it and not doing it.
Yep.
Okay, we're almost done. We've got 4 more pages. Woo!
Okay. While acknowledging that dildos, like many other sex toys, may be considered oppressive to women by privileging penetration, citation needed, the queer perspective offers multiple readings of a dildo and does not limit it to a monolithic interpretation. Be oppressed by my monolith, women. Zip.
Exactly.
Queer ideologies acknowledge people, including women.
I can't. No,
Can you not handle it? Is it too much?
Well, I was going to make.
Just take it.
I was going to make a circumcision joke that I won't be able to see all the letters unless you're fully erect.
Ah, you are terrible.
Sorry. Okay.
Where is that shock button?
Exactly. Push the shock button. Good. Okay.
Queer ideologies acknowledge people, including women, in multiple ways with shifting locations of power. These perspectives do not view dildos as oppressive alone, but offer alternatives in which the powerless gain power. Dildos give women the power to be more assertive and expressive of their desires. It expands possibilities of penetrative sex within homosexual relationships among women, as well as in contexts of women pleasuring themselves. In addition, they shift the dimensions of power within heterosexual relationships. Dildos could offer safer spaces, phrasing, for women to talk and express their sexuality, such as within the context of sex toy parties. They allow for HIV-positive people to enjoy safer penetrative sex. They also allow people with disabilities to experience sexual gratification when they may not have ample opportunities to form sexual and romantic relationships. Queer ideology thus allows for multiple perspectives and permits favorable coexistence.
We need a modified coexist bumper sticker with a dong on it now. My note for this whole paragraph was, yes, dildos are grand. Did you need 20 pages to say that?
Yep.
So that's my note.
Yep.
So
dildos are wonderful devices that some people can use for really awesome reasons, but some people can be dicks with them.
But exactly. Oh my gosh.
That was the TLDR of everything we've just read.
It's true.
Although I still did find, the talk about diseases and disabilities, that's interesting. I kind of wish the entire paper was about that. That's far more of an interesting conversation to have.
Okay, discussion. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Give your voice a break.
Please do. Discuss me, bunny.
I did like hearing about your queer self.
It's good to have got that off my chest.
I could appreciate that. This is a safe space, Teal. It's not at all. Okay. Discussion. When I first started working on this paper, I began with looking at how feminist theory was different from the queer perspective in a way that pitted one against the other. Within this view, feminist thought seemed to be traditional and regressive. Actually, a good point. Yeah. And queer theory provided the more progressive viewpoint. However, with more reflection, it occurred to me that an inadequate as well as an unfair representation of feminist thought and theory. Like queer theory, feminism and feminist theory is also marked by constant shifts and revisions in ideology. My dictionary definition. And in fact, the development of queer theory can be looked at within the context of these critical revisions within feminist theory and feminist ideology, Walters. Even if I mentioned that there is no one strand of feminism, all I represented within feminism early was looking at all penetrative sex as necessarily patriarchal and anti-feminist. Good point. Yes, that was a strong thing that you were representing there. However, I knew that that was not the only view within feminism. Also, it was difficult to determine whether a particular scholarship was feminist or queer. If certain scholarship happened to be queer, what made me so sure that it was not feminist as well? Considering feminism and queer thought are not from altogether different planets, but instead overlapped into each other and had definite leanings into each other. I also realized that the feminist and the queer within me were not so separate.
Phrasing.
I know. And both these streams of thought together led to my existing ideology and knowledge. It was therefore not a competition between feminist and queer thought, but a mutual enmeshing process, which led to a clear ideology and belief. Some fair points in there. I mean, this is the discussion. This is where you say, yeah, okay, this is my bias, blah, 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 blah. But it continues. While there are some feminist voices which liken the use of dildo, I love the singular dildo. I'm still imagining him in the sitcom as dildo as adhering to the phallocentric and masculinist order. There are equally other feminist and queer voices which look at the dildo as a tool of subversion, fight the power, and a site to revisit and rewrite some of the traditional patriarchal sexual scripts into those which are more equal and non-hierarchical. In contrast to being considered as a phallic signifier, the presence of the dildo could potentially subvert notions of patriarchy and masculinity. You mean, this is my note for that, subverting notions of patriarchy and masculinity? You mean like how some people say sex bots and artificial wombs will make women obsolete by subverting gynocentrism? But you can't say that part. So, okay.
Misogyny.
Yeah. Some feminists, this is where it gets good. Some feminist theorists liken the use of the dildo for penetrative sex to that of a symbolically castrated or dismembered man, separating the man from the phallic signifier, thus undermining male domination and male hierarchy, or satisfying a serious avulsion or zombie fetish. That was Ed's note at the end there. So there are other ways of viewing the dildo as well. I keep saying I can't read the letters yet. Okay. In the course of writing this paper, I also had to work upon and undo my ways of looking at the dildo in a binary code. On the one hand, one perspective looks at the dildo as subverting norms of gender and sexuality. For example, Hamming suggests that contrary to representing a woman's lack, the dildo disrupts the norms of gender and sexuality and could potentially transform phallic absence into phallic presence. On the other, even in those contexts, the dildo could still be read as a phallic signifier, as it is constituted as a site of heterosexuality because of its likeness to a penis. Within this perspective, the dildo continues to be viewed as a phallic signifier. That's because it is. As according to this perspective, the logic of the dildo as a supplement always contains the trace of the male body, the presence-absence of the originary penis. Yes, also see biology. So, however, a dildo need not be viewed as either a phallic signifier coded with decades of patriarchal codes or as an object which undid male presence altogether. Ways of rewriting or redoing existing perspectives on the dildo need not necessarily be premised on the banishing of the male presence. Instead, what most appealed to me was to necessarily look at the dildo beyond the significations of gender and phallocentrism. This can best be explained by Hamming's subversion of this narrative through Donna Haraway's position of the cyborg, which has nothing invested in its connection, or the lack of it, with masculine history abandoning binary divisions of male and female, human and machine. Thus the dildo, but sex bots are bad for guys. Thus the dildo is presented more as a tool, not necessarily invested with phallic significance, and also offers a lesbian gender flexibility as a cyborg. Thus, the cyborg opens up opportunities for non-gendered, non-hierarchical encounters which were previously dominated by heterocentric and masculinist regimes. Hamming. My note on this entire paragraph was, you can use as many pretty words as you want, you're still simulating a cock, FYI.
But dick girls aren't men, right? Because Futa isn't gay or something, right?
Or something. Yeah. And the cyborg stuff, I love how the idea of wrapping your brain around the whole cyborg thing for women is liberating, right?
Yeah.
But when men want sex bots they can turn off when they don't need them, well, that's just objectifying
women and encouraging men to treat them with objects. Yeah, we know. It's just it's so infuriating how they just cannot see this double standard that they apply to two things that are the same.
Well, I agree. And that's why we're doing this, right?
Yes.
But yes. And having discussed some of the perspectives surrounding the concept of the dildo, I would like to revisit my earlier anecdote on my anxieties around searching for dildos in India. While I was aware of some of these perspectives, feminist as well as queer, when I wanted to make the trip to Palika Bazaar with Matilda, it was not enough just to be aware of these perspectives. Firstly, there was shame. There was shame attached in going to. I'm sorry, I can't do the serious voice. There was shame attached in going to search for a dildo as a single woman.
Shame.
If you're going to feel shame,
Shame.
there's going to be shame, whether you're single or not. Shame. There was shame attached in being perceived of as not a good Indian woman. Personal problem. So even if feminist and queer perspectives enable people with liberating ideas around sexuality, shame inhibits many people. Maybe just you. No. especially women though. Especially
Yep,
women
of course.
from asserting, of course, especially women from asserting and acknowledging their sexual desires. Yeah, it's women who feel more shame going into a sex shop, not the guy that wants the rubber fist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me that. Yeah, tell me again.
Well, women have it worse, don't you know? Because they always do. Always.
Yeah.
Even though they're going to walk into a sex shop where most of it's aimed at them, probably be served by a woman, they have it worse. They're oppressed.
Yeah, and where at the better ones, they have like wine and cupcakes and it's nice music and it's totally geared for women.
Yep.
Like totally geared for women. But yeah, it's the women that feel the most shame. Okie dokie. Yeah. Oh dear. And nobody ever makes fun of guys for having blow up dolls ever.
Nope. Completely normal. No one will ever mock a man for it.
Never. Oh, here we go. Oh, yes. So even if feminist and queer perspectives enable people with liberating ideas around sexuality, shame inhibits many people, especially women, from asserting and acknowledging their sexual desires. Secondly, there was the issue of language. Even if I could have got rid of my shame, and my note for that is, what do you mean could have? What's stopping you? Really? Okay. Even if I could have got rid of my shame of being viewed as a slut, it would not have been enough. I lacked the language to acknowledge and assert my desire to buy a dildo. I knew no words in Hindi to refer to a dildo. Draw a picture. Like me, many other people found, like, how hard is this? This is serious?
You brought a man with you. Just point.
Exactly. This, but never gets flaccid, never ejaculates prematurely, and
more
never
accurately
asks me
with
to
most
actually
sex
pay
shops.
for my own dinner.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More accurately with most sex shops, just point and say this, but bigger. That's what most of them are.
The shame.
But she will feel the shame.
Yeah, exactly. She's so funny. I'm almost warming up to the author of this because it's all of the my shame. Oh,
it's the kind of person you just want to like go into the shop with them and just be like, look, nothing bad has happened. Just go.
And nobody cares.
Yeah, just
nobody
go and
cares
do it.
that you're brown. Nobody cares that you're single. Nobody cares that you're queer. Just buy it and shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah.
Oh, like me, many other people face the challenge of articulating our desires in languages which do not easily allow for the same. You could probably honestly just say dildo, frankly.
Yep.
So it's like going to Germany and saying beer. They know what you mean. Related to sexuality and sexual desire remain inaccessible in mainstream culture, although there may seem to be a ready space in language for curse words. Exactly. A ready space. Oh, your space is ready, hun, honestly. Oh, in language for curse words associated to sexuality and more specifically women's sexuality. Thirdly, there is the issue of accessibility. While I lived in New Delhi and had the necessary knowledge of dildos and knew of the possible places where I could buy them, dildos are inaccessible for many people, including women and people with disabilities. I'm kind of like, so you knew where they were and you could buy them, but they were inaccessible to many women?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Presumably all of those women feel the shame and just something stops
Shame!
them. Just the invisible force field of the patriarchy that's erected at the door stops them from walking in.
But what will people think of her, Teal? Don't you think of what people will think of her?
I know, that is what I need to do. I mean, I do have another piece of advice for her. I mean, clearly she's very sort of sexually repressed. Her friend Matilda is deaf, and Matilda has a boyfriend. If you're all in the same house, I'm sure you can work around those two variables.
Yes.
And then everyone's happy.
We're getting back to the high five scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
I am not encouraging
yeah.
infidelity or anything like that. But hey,
No, it's
but
true.
hey, if she's
Oh, no.
deaf,
Oh my god.
does that count?
Okay. I think you're starting to bump me on the going to hell list. I'm so happy. It's good. Yay.
Please don't tell the chat about how much you like it when I'm bumping you. It's terrible. We bring this upon ourselves.
We do bring it ourselves. You're coercing me so hard right now. It's the coercion.
I regret nothing.
That's the way to live, Teal. That's the way to live. You know, we could probably end it now with like cowboy music, just on that note. Like you walking off into the sunset, me clutching my shawl around my corseted. Yeah, it would be fabulous. I don't know why I just cast you as a cowboy like Clint Eastwood, but I'm kind of digging it. But it's like Teal Deer, Clint Eastwood.
Sure,
yeah,
why not?
It's pretty good. Oh, but we need to talk about her shame.
Yes, we must talk about her shame more, and we need to have the closure. We've got to have that.
We have to have completion. It's actually good that I'm not more sadistic, because I would be getting so hot at hearing about how humiliating this is for her.
I am, so keep going.
Okay, excellent.
Tell me about her shame.
Oh, I will. Unlike my situation, dildos are inaccessible for most women living in smaller towns and cities in India. They are not equally accessible for all people living even in New Delhi. For example, in a workshop I attended for people with disabilities and issues of sexuality, some participants complained about their inaccessibility to sex toys. People are complaining about this shit? Really?
Well, do you not have an internet connection?
Or a cucumber? Or something? An electric toothbrush? Are you, like... Wow. Okay. Anyway.
Use your imagination, ladies.
You gotta MacGyver Boy Scout this shit. Just, make it work. Tim Gunn. There you go. Just channel Tim Gunn and make it work, ladies. One participant who was articulate and informed about various services for people with disabilities mentioned that even if he knew what sex toys he wanted, was able to afford them, and was aware of the websites where these could be ordered, he was still unable to do so because he was dependent on other family members for routine activities. He was ashamed. He was ashamed, Teal, about ordering for a sex toy with his own money, and was anxious and felt constrained with the perceptions his family members would have of him. Therefore, accessibility to sex toys, including dildos, would potentially be more difficult for people with disabilities who have insufficient resources or inadequate knowledge about where to access such devices. Not a bad point. I can see that would be difficult, but why do you need a sex toy? Sex toys are ancient. It's like, just make it work. MacGyver.
I'm guessing maybe this is just like a guy who doesn't have use of his arms or something.
Could be,
maybe, but I'm.
But operating a sex toy, then
that's why he's dependent on other family members. So presumably he'd need someone else to use it for him. It's like, even if you MacGyver the ever-loving crap out of it, okay, we're gonna MacGyver this. Do you have a bed on a stand? Okay, kneel and shove yourself in between the mattress and the thing. There you go. Yeah. You can do that.
I get the dependent on other family members for routine activities, but it's the ashamed about ordering for a sex toy with his own money, and again felt constrained with the perceptions. I'm like, well, I feel for you, but there's probably not a lot of privacy there. But I'm not sure accessibility to sex toys is necessarily going to make a difference. I don't know.
Well, that's not the problem. The problem is that this is a guy who, okay, if he's in a situation where he's in one of the poorer Indian houses where people may often share rooms with each other.
That's what I meant about privacy.
Yeah, it's like, if that's a problem, having access to this stuff isn't going to be an issue. He said, look, I have money and I have access to the internet and websites and know all this stuff, but there's other things stopping him. Having access to it isn't going to change that. The problem is then the environment that he's in.
Mm-hmm. And that again goes back to the only good part of the study to this, which is discussing the actual issues of people with disabilities. But the focus is, as you say, the focus is not on accessibility to sex toys. The focus is on the entire situation.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think it should be, because I don't think it's the accessibility of the sex toys.
Accessibility is not the problem. It's everything else.
He's in a shitty situation, and so what do you do about that? And the author, to her credit, actually goes into that here.
Yes.
Because It may therefore not be sufficient to have a liberating feminist or queer perspective toward the dildo. The ground realities must be considered, and activism and advocacy must be geared toward facing such challenges. So again, best part of this whole study is when she ditches the feminist shit and focuses on the actual issues of people with disabilities.
Yeah.
So good on her for focusing on that.
Yeah.
But we're in the home stretch. Do you want to?
Let's talk about disabilities. Let's talk about diseases. Let's talk about economics and living conditions. These are things we can do shit about.
But spending all of this time worrying about dildos, and that is not activism and advocacy.
But my shame.
My shame. What will they think of me as a queer woman? Hey, did I tell you I'm queer? Did I tell you? Is anybody noticing? I'm a queer woman over here. Queer woman. What do you think of me buying this dong? It's a double-headed black knobbler. Like, what are you doing? Nobody cares. Deal with it. But she's so close. It's like, yes, you have good points in here. Focus on this. Let's come up with solutions to these things. Nobody cares about you, needing to click the bean for, nobody cares. Nobody cares what you shove up there. Okay. So do you want to, Teal, do you want to bring us home?
Oh, maybe. Okay, let's do it. Just for the sake of it, I will end us with gusto. So, the dildo therefore refuses to be contained within singular unidirectional perspectives. No, it is a unidirectional device, just so you know.
Well, no, because then it's bidirectional.
Yes, but along one plane of...
It is one axis, yes.
Yes. Singular axis, otherwise, oh no. That's a trip to the emergency room. And some amusing x-rays which will end up on the internet.
Yes. Oh god, yes.
One particular strand of feminism, namely radical feminism, provides a valid perspective of viewing the dildo as oppressive to women. This is not the sole perspective of all women, or even for all feminists. Maybe you shouldn't be considering it valid then.
Yes.
Moving on. Other strands within feminist philosophy, as well as queer perspectives, offer multi-layered ways of looking at dildos and allow for constant shifting of power. Ground-level realities, however, do not allow for people, especially women, queer people, and people with disabilities, to have an equal and easy accessibility to dildos for reasons such as shame attached to sexuality, language, and the lack of it, or even issues of mobility and accessibility. Activism therefore needs to be geared to look at the multiple needs of people and intervene in varied ways to counter some of these challenges.
Yeah, because shame people feel totally the same way as being a paraplegic does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's how could you even put them in the same category? Like
feminism.
Yes.
This paper has really highlighted to me how sort of the real problem that is seeing with a lot of feminist arguments isn't necessarily feminism, it's the problem of things like intersectionality, which throws all of this other shit onto the same level, and then just equates things like having no arms to feeling shame.
Yeah.
The problem is feminism and intersectionality are, at this point in time, basically inseparable from each other, but...
yeah, it's screwing up the Women's March, though.
Yeah.
Oh no, there were parts of this paper that were really good.
Yes.
But really, the author obviously has a brain. She can obviously see needs, right? But the focus on, what would people think of me? I feel so much shame, blah, 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 blah. And dildos, it's to me, it's very much again, my lived experience thing. And it never occurs to people that perhaps their shame is their own issue. And perhaps you need to deal with that. And you'll get this in a lot of things. Well, you don't understand. People are killing themselves because of the shame they feel. And I said, well, I think that they need better coping skills then.
Yeah.
Because the world is a terrible, terrible place. And there are people who are going to try and make you feel ashamed for basically everything you do. Male, female, trans, gay, straight, whatever.
Yeah.
So
people will always judge you. Deal with it.
Yes. People are going to judge you. And it's how you deal with it. So I would recommend putting on a helmet and learning how to deal with criticism and all that good shit. Not in a bootstrap up kind of way, but in a for your own good. Like, because you're not always going to have people around you that are going to give you that safe space and tell you everything's okay.
Yeah. The problem is your skin is so thin, your organs are on the outside. That's the wrong way of living.
Yes, and it's although we were talking about defleshing in class the other day, and it was very enjoyable, and that's what you just made me think of. So anyway, that was a random tangent, but we were defleshing is a really interesting process. So
yes.
Anyway,
well, if you're going to eat a chicken, you do have to peel it first.
Yeah, I'm referring to bodies and shit, but chickens are good too.
If you want to do anything, you've got to peel it. That's it.
That is true. That is true.
Except for the male penis, ladies.
Do not. Yes, leave it alone. It's and I must say thank you for understanding my circumcision joke, because it just sort of came out, and I'm sure some people were horrified that I could joke about something I actually feel pretty serious about speaking out against, but it was there. You go for the joke. Come on.
You've got to laugh about things that are traumatic, because otherwise you'll do what this woman does and get weighed down by them and
by my shame. By your shame. My shame. If I can't make a joke on a stream with you about dildos, then when can I make a joke? Really?
It's pretty much the ideal place.
I want to know how many people have started referring to their back door as their ghetto after the other stream, because I think it maybe is, I mean, I have. Maybe that's too much. But yeah, now it's the ghetto. So that means that means the front is the gated community. So and on that note,
yes, there is a definite black-brown divide there, or brown-white divide. The analogy is a little too perfect.
Thank you. I try. And people have told me it's so funny. People have said sometimes you say things, and Bunny, and they're really witty, and sometimes you say them and I want to throw up a little bit. And I'm like, then I've achieved all my goals.
Yep.
So, yes, I've hit all the notes I want to hit.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This was less roundly mockable than Black Anality, because Black Anality was just absolutely fucking ridiculous. But this one had some good points. So
yes.
Yeah. And I think we managed to focus on the good points. But I still think, and if you read it again, knowing exactly what it's about, though, you do see all of these like tighter around women and girls and pushing dialogues, and let's unwrap the dildo. I mean, seriously, like,
yeah.
What words are you using? Just use it for what it intended, or maybe stop viewing men as horrible. And I don't know. Have a relationship with one. Yeah. But she's queer, but she's not a lesbian. She says that in this, so she's tacitly open to relationships with men. I'm like, maybe you should they're okay.
Yeah, maybe you should give that a ride. Might be okay.
Saddle up, and because that was the other big word in this, was how dildos are saddled.
Yep.
It was so good. So maybe she should just try the real bull instead of the one at the bar.
Yep, it might actually work.
Just a couple times, just try it. You may be surprised. So, oh my God. But yes, so yeah, I appreciate you having me on here for the silly place.
Yep.
I love going through this stuff, though, because people still have the idea that the academic papers are so like super serious, and they're so much smarter than you because they've been published. And I had this talk on my Twitter. I'm like, just because somebody has more letters after the name than you doesn't give them a pass for being an idiot. Just so don't shy away from it. It doesn't matter if they have a PhD. That just means that they got through school, which quite frankly is not necessarily all that difficult right now, at least not here.
It's not a sign of achievement anymore. It's more a sign of persistence than anything else.
And having enough money.
Yes.
Right? So it's a sign of having enough money and being persistent. And sometimes it's about being able to bitch about all of the things that you are marginalized at, and then you kind of get waved through. But that's for another stream.
Yes, it is.
Oh, the shit I could take advantage of if I wanted, just because I'm a woman, is insane. I don't, because it's unethical to me, but Yeah. Lot of assistance for ladies, just putting that out there, especially in STEM.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
So we crossed the 3-hour mark a little bit ago.
I know.
So I think we should probably wind things down.
Yes.
Because
we should take the saddle off.
yes.
Oh, don't forget to zip back up your barn doors down.
Yes, that is very, very important. It will take me a while to pack it all back in, though. So
I understand.
I'm gonna
you're
get
gonna
on
need
that.
both hands. I know you need both hands for that. So.
Exactly. So, all of the speculation from the chat now. Jesus Christ.
It's so good, though.
This is not even a ship anymore. This is a fleet that's just sailing around the ocean of the internet.
But your fans are so good, though. You know,
they send me delightful fan art.
Yes, yes. I'm always happy to be on any stream I'm invited to because it means I chat with a lot of good people. But fan bases do differ between people, and some chats are really interesting and engaging and lively and clever, and some are less so. And I have to say, your fans are quite clever and interesting. So yeah.
In the comments section, yes, they are a delightful bunch, but in the live chat, they are absolute pure cancer because they know the point of YouTube live chat is cancer. Right now, all they're doing is just naming film titles and replacing words with dildo.
Oh my god, that's so good.
It's such a good thing I record it for the stream. You can go back and watch it and just see all of the film names with dildo in the title instead. It's actually rather amusing.
We can do dongs as well. Wizard of Dongs. Okay, let's see. Last dildo in Paris. That would be good. And it's relevant because of the butter scene. As I'm old, okay, everyone in the chat's gonna be like, what's she talking about? I'm talking about what would be considered a coercive sodomy with butter. There you go. Oh, you have to come up with a good one before we go, Teal. What's a good movie title that you come up with dildo in it?
I would say it would have to be the good old trilogy: Dildo Hard, Dildo Harder, Dildo with a Vengeance.
Yes, yes.
And on that note, thank you for joining me, Bunny, and thank you for joining me, everyone in the chat. We will return with something lewd, disgusting, and other words of description later on.